more than 100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought unprecedented challenges to our member states and the people we serve. In response, the OAS Secretariat for Integral Development adopted a three-pronged approach by 1. Adjusting our portfolio of existing projects, 2. Exploring new projects to meet emerging needs, and 3. Expanding multi-sectoral partnerships. The results achieved in 2020 demonstrate the resilience of our member states and the commitment of the OAS SETI to work with member states and partners towards our common goals in the development of our region. Our Network on Competitiveness launched the COVID-19 Ideas Accelerator, sharing 250 tools, health solutions, responses, and recovery plans. The Network for Labor Administration published a portfolio of responses from ministries of labor to COVID-19, sharing over 420 measures taken to protect workers, employment, and income. Likewise, The Inter-American Teacher Education Network series, Teaching STEM in Quarantine, provided 117,000 teachers with key tools to continue advancing STEM education during the pandemic. Through its network and platforms, the Inter-American Committee on Ports promoted international and national best practices, guidelines, protocols, and recommendations on COVID-19 safety measures and continuity of logistic operations. Initiatives such as the Education in Times of Change platform allowed us to meet urgent needs by offering timely tools on virtual education and a dedicated space for ministries to share strategies, actions, and solutions. Other programs such as the Row Fund stepped up, providing emergency grants to offset the challenges imposed on our students by the pandemic. SETI's partnerships are adding value to member states in the form of technical assistance, training, and access to tools and services. In partnership with leading private sector institutions, we offered micro, small, and medium enterprises access to online tools and training, increasing their visibility and participation in e-commerce, a key to their survival and growth in the pandemic and post-pandemic era. A new OAS SETI Facebook initiative provided 85,000 MSMEs across the region with capacity building opportunities and WhatsApp business tools to aid response, recovery, and resilience building. The Caribbean Small Business Development Centers program achieved real impact, supporting new businesses, expanding sales, and driving growth. A new network of Caribbean SPDCs will broaden the program's reach. The Inter-American Committee on Tourism, the CTOUR, convened ministerial-level policy dialogue in an urgent response to the impact of the pandemic on the hard-hit tourism and hospitality sectors. Policymakers and experts discussed biosanitary protocols, travel and visa facilitation, among other critical areas for the sector's recovery. Partnering with the George Washington University and the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs, we went ahead with the scheduled first Indigenous Tourism Forum of the Americas, pivoting to a virtual format and convening over 240 participants from indigenous communities, the private sector, and governments. SETI also integrated sustainable development practices in the COVID-19 response. The pandemic is a daily reminder of the links between water, health, sanitation, food security, and nutrition. We ensured the continuity of our water management projects in the Plata Basin and worked with governments and partners in the design of an investment portfolio valued at $90 million. Additionally, the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas continued to share relevant best practices and responses to the pandemic on energy and air quality. These few examples indicate our collective impact. We cannot do this alone. It is now more urgent than ever to address the region's structural weaknesses, to recover from the health, economic, and social crises occasioned by the pandemic and prepare for future shocks. It is imperative that we work together as we risk losing recent development gains and seeing millions fall back into poverty. It is time for the region to redirect course and pursue a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable future for all. We are in this together.
But the resilience building agenda is too big for any one stakeholder to address acting alone, and simply bringing together stakeholders, whether at the national, subnational, regional, or global level, is not enough. Effective, focused, and sustained coordination among stakeholders is paramount to provide countries with integrated and comprehensive support.
The OAS, as a hemispheric forum and honest broker, must continue to facilitate this process while we work with member states towards the attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Cooperation, collaboration, and partnerships that include all actors strengthen us, enabling us to be more than the sum of our parts. We can and we must work together. The future of our region depends on it.
Bueno, la CIM tiene una agenda enorme en el tema de democracia y de liderazgos. El primer ámbito tiene que ver con la gobernanza electoral, para que esta gobernanza electoral responda a las necesidades con las que fue creada, y es buscar los espacios de redistribución del poder. Después hay un programa interamericano sobre liderazgo de las mujeres, donde generamos conocimiento y también tenemos cursos de capacitación. Hay un poderoso curso que ha llegado a más de 1000 mujeres con más de 15 ediciones, que es para candidatas electorales, en las cuales conversamos con ellas, pero también nos ponemos en una agenda de solidaridad y articulación y alianzas entre las mujeres, a pesar de las múltiples diferencias ideológicas o de partidos políticos. También hablamos de los temas de violencia política, porque no es lo mismo llegar que quedarse, y la violencia política es una forma de ejercicio de disciplinar a las mujeres para que vuelvan al mundo de lo privado y enfrentar la violencia, hacer buenas investigaciones, buenas leyes que permitan sancionar la violencia política. Es parte de las aspiraciones de la CIM en este programa de liderazgo de las mujeres. La aspiración histórica de las mujeres es estar en el mundo de lo público, que nuestro trabajo sea remunerado y que tenga un reconocimiento. COVID ha puesto en evidencia una profundización de las brechas existentes para el logro de este objetivo. Estas brechas existentes ahora dan cuenta de que podríamos tener un rezago de más de 2 décadas en el mundo laboral, que el cierre de brechas que se previó que podía tardar 100 años en cerrarse, ahora se habla de 135 años para cerrar la brecha entre los hombres y las mujeres. Entonces nuestro objetivo es que miren el derecho de las mujeres al empoderamiento económico, que el statement "quédate en casa", que es un viejo conocido del patriarcado, no sea que nos quedemos en casa siempre, y que entendamos que la inserción de la mitad de la población, de este talento humano que tiene una serie de ventajas competitivas, es necesario para el crecimiento económico. De manera que la CIM está colocando esta realidad, está colocando las necesidades de las mujeres y está haciendo unas recomendaciones de rutas para poder cumplir con el derecho al empoderamiento económico y con el crecimiento económico que requieren nuestras empobrecidas economías en tiempos de COVID.
Esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos, no podemos ser neutrales.
more than 100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought unprecedented challenges to all member states and the people we serve. In response, the OAS Secretariat for Integral Development adopted a three-pronged approach by 1. Adjusting our portfolio of existing projects, 2. Exploring new projects to meet emerging needs, and 3. Expanding multi-sectoral partnerships. The results achieved in 2020 demonstrate the resilience of our member states and the commitment of the OAS SETI to work with member states and partners towards our common goals in the development of our region. Our Network on Competitiveness launched the COVID-19 Ideas Accelerator, sharing 250 tools, health solutions, responses, and recovery plans. The Network for Labor Administration published a portfolio of responses from ministries of labor to COVID-19, sharing over 420 measures taken to protect workers, employment, and income. Likewise, the Inter-American Teacher Education Network series, Teaching STEM in Quarantine, provided 117,000 teachers with key tools to continue advancing STEM education during the pandemic. Through its network and platforms, the Inter-American Committee on Ports promoted international and national best practices, guidelines, protocols, and recommendations on COVID-19 safety measures and continuity of logistic operations. Initiatives such as the Education in Times of Change platform allowed us to meet urgent needs by offering timely tools on virtual education and a dedicated space for ministries to share strategies, actions, and solutions. Other programs such as the Row Fund stepped up, providing emergency grants to offset the challenges imposed on our students by the pandemic. SETI's partnerships are adding value to member states in the form of technical assistance, training, and access to tools and services. In partnership with leading private sector institutions, we offered micro, small, and medium enterprises access to online tools and training, increasing their visibility and participation in e-commerce, a key to their survival and growth in the pandemic and post-pandemic era. A new OAS SETI Facebook initiative provided 85,000 MSMEs across the region with capacity building opportunities and WhatsApp business tools to aid response, recovery, and resilience building. The Caribbean Small Business Development Center's program achieved real impact, supporting new businesses, expanding sales, and driving growth. A new network of Caribbean SPDCs will broaden the program's reach. The Inter-American Committee on Tourism, the C2, convened ministerial-level policy dialogue in an urgent response to the impact of the pandemic on the hard-hit tourism and hospitality sectors. Policymakers and experts discussed biosanitary protocols, travel and visa facilitation, among other critical areas for the sector's recovery. Partnering with the George Washington University and the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs, we went ahead with the scheduled first Indigenous Tourism Forum of the Americas, pivoting to a virtual format and convening over 240 participants from indigenous communities, the private sector, and governments. SETI also integrated sustainable development practices in the COVID-19 response. The pandemic is a daily reminder of the links between water, health, sanitation, food security, and nutrition. We ensured the continuity of our water management projects in the Plata Basin and worked with governments and partners in the design of an investment portfolio valued at $90 million. Additionally, the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas continued to share relevant best practices and responses to the pandemic on energy and air quality. These few examples indicate our collective impact. We cannot do this alone. It is now more urgent than ever to address the region's structural weaknesses, to recover from the health, economic, and social crises occasioned by the pandemic and prepare for future shocks. It is imperative that we work together as we risk losing recent development gains and seeing millions fall back into poverty. It is time for the region to redirect course and pursue a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable future for all. We are in this together.
But the resilience building agenda is too big for any one stakeholder to address acting alone, and simply bringing together stakeholders, whether at the national, subnational, regional, or global level, is not enough. Effective, focused, and sustained coordination among stakeholders is paramount to provide countries with integrated and comprehensive support.
The OAS, as a hemispheric forum and honest broker, must continue to facilitate this process while we work with member states towards the attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda.
I would like to thank Ambassador Arce for his kindness in inviting me to present this item and to chair this portion. This is the commemoration of the Day of Women of the Americas. This is a significant milestone in the history of the Americas. The Day of Women of the Americas, it was declared by the OAS General Assembly at its 10th meeting on 20 November 1982. It pays tribute to the progress and contributions of women on our continent. On 18 February, we celebrate the anniversary of the creation of the Inter-American Commission of Women in 1928. This is also a symbolic and crucial moment of the to recognize the civil and political rights of women in the Americas. The creation of SIM was a key step in establishing the first intergovernmental body dedicated specifically to promoting the equality of women and the empowerment of women in our region. This day is especially important this year. against the backdrop of the 30th anniversary of the Declaration and Platform of Action of Beijing of 1995, as well as part of the framework for preparations for the 40th Assembly of Delegates of SIM in Colombia in April of this year. In this context, we reaffirm the importance of multilateralism as a platform for working together collectively to promote the rights of women and gender equality. Following the tradition of previous years, we commemorate this day in response to the request from the permanent missions of Bolivia, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Mexico, Panama, the Dominican Republic, and Uruguay. Colleagues, we will now hear the presentations by our distinguished panelists who will share their insights and perspectives on this commemoration. I would like to inform delegations first that the permanent mission of Colombia has let us know that unfortunately the Vice President of the Republic of Colombia, Her Excellency Francia Marquez Mina, will not be able to take part in this commemoration today. However, we are pleased to announce that we have the participation of Ms. Tamara Ocina Poza, the Vice Minister of Women of Colombia. That having been said, it is an honor to welcome Her Excellency Niorca del Carmen Palacio Urriola, the Minister of Women's Affairs of the Republic of Panama and President of the Inter-American Commission of Women. Minister, welcome to this Permanent Council. Your leadership at the helm of SIM helps promote women's rights in our region. Welcome, and you have the floor. Hello, and good afternoon to all. It is an honor to speak to you today. Ambassador and Permanent Representative of El Salvador, Wendy Acevedo, the Vice Minister of Women, Tamara Ospina, the representatives of the OAS, OAS Secretary General, the Executive Secretary of SIM, Alejandra Mora Mora, colleagues. Are you able to hear me? Yes, we hear you very well. Thank you. Multilateralism is the bedrock of movements on our continent. In 1928, ministers from the Americas joined in solidarity at the Sixth Assembly to promote a treaty on women's rights. The treaty was not adopted by the delegates, but this effort led to the creation of SIM, which over the decades has addressed the priorities of women and has promoted various instruments, programs, and initiatives to strengthen women's rights. Today, this forum is just as important as it was 97 years ago. SIM is an important forum to address different cultures and visions of the world. As women, we work together to fight for our rights. In 2025, we will hold or celebrate the anniversary of the Platform of Beijing, which is a roadmap to promote women's rights. In addition to this milestone, we recognize the milestones achieved by SIM, the treaties that have been agreed to, as well as the instruments that have been developed, as well as the knowledge that has been promoted, in addition to efforts to promote its efforts in various member states of the OAS in order to further the commitments made at the international level and within the Americas to promote equity and gender equality. These then become effective public policies to contribute to women's equal participation in every area, whether we're talking about civil, cultural, or political areas. On this day and throughout the year, there will be many opportunities to reaffirm our commitment to this ambitious plan of action, including the Commission on Women, which will be held in March at the UN, the 40th Assembly of Delegates of SIM, which will be held in Colombia in April with our ally, Vice President Marquez. There's also the OAS General Assembly, which will be held in June in Antigua and Barbuda. There is the Regional Conference on Women of Latin America and the Caribbean, which will be held in Mexico in mid-August. And all of this will follow up on our commitments, and we will culminate with the 10th Summit of the Americas, which will be held in the Dominican Republic towards the end of this year. And as we hope, we will see the same commitment to women's rights that we have always seen at that summit. We are also celebrating 30 years of achievement. These fora are opportunities that are not to be missed to further our work, led by ministers of women's affairs throughout the Americas, in addition to ministers of foreign affairs, representatives of women's movements, international organizations, academia, the media, and other partners. I invite you to join us in this effort so that together we can advance and deepen the vision and target that we set in Beijing, which multilateralism has promoted, and let multilateralism continue to be a forum for discussing these issues. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister, for those remarks and for all of the work that you do in SIM and for your efforts to promote the agenda of women's rights in all of the fora that you mentioned. I would now like to offer the floor to Ms. Tamara Opina, Minister of Women's Affairs of Colombia, who is joining us virtually today. Vice Minister, thank you for your participation. Welcome. You have the floor. Could you speak again to see if we can hear you? We can hear you. Vice Chair of the Permanent Council, Ambassador Wendy Acevedo, Permanent Representative of El Salvador, Her Excellency Niorca del Carmen Palacio Oriola, Minister of Women's Affairs of Panama and President of SIM, Ms. Alejandra Mora Mora, Executive Secretary of SIM, Ms. Maria Jose Corbalan, Coordinator of the Coalition for Women's Human Rights of the OAS and member of the Association for Women's Human Rights, ADEM, delegates of member states and observer states, Ambassador of Colombia to the OAS, greetings from the President of Colombia and Vice President of Colombia. Today, to commemorate the Day of Women of the Americas, I'd like to underscore the important role played by women who have worked and struggled for equality to obtain a dignified future for us all. It's not just enough to have women in those spaces making decisions. It's important that we are able to defend justice and equality. This is even more crucial at a time when we see a resurgence of regressive policies with respect to women's rights. The government of Colombia supports multilateralism within its foreign policy on women's rights. The idea here is to strengthen gender equality agendas in multilateral fora. We believe that multilateralism must always aim to move forward and never move back with respect to human rights. This is why today I want to underscore the importance of SIM, which since 1928 has been a forum to promote the political, economic, and social rights of women in the Americas. It has created international instruments and mechanisms to strengthen multilateralism with a gender-based approach. Here in Colombia, it is an honor for us to host the 40th Assembly of Delegates of SIM, which will be held in Cartagena in April. It will be a privilege for the Colombian government to have the presence of delegates in our country. I'm also pleased to announce that the central theme of this assembly will be strengthening policies and strategies to promote economic empowerment of women. It will also look at economic empowerment of women, which means also recognizing the forms of discrimination and inclusion directed against women in our societies. We need to recognize progress, to be sure, but we also need to look at the challenges that still lie ahead. We need coordinated multilateral efforts to overcome these gaps. We need to overcome machismo and the patriarchy in our region. Women are more vulnerable than men and are affected in a different and disproportionate way by these various phenomena, such as climate change, wars, and pandemics. We also see that more and more women are falling into poverty in our region. Economic empowerment of women can be a powerful catalyst to help women fully enjoy their human rights, because it allows us to look at structural determining factors and issues such as the economy of care. Looking at economic empowerment of women will help us move forward in fighting gender-based violence, because when you have economic dependence, it increases cycles of violence. It is also important to incorporate a gender-based approach in other policies, especially when it comes to reproductive rights. This is why this is such a crucial issue for us, because it will allow us to move forward on several fronts to promote the dignity of women. For the government of Colombia, economic empowerment and independence is a fundamental right. Women need the following three conditions. One, the opportunity to access economic and social resources to lead a dignified life, not only for themselves, but for their families and communities. Secondly, they need the means to make decisions about the use of their own resources. And thirdly, they need to have the means to access resources in order to meet their individual and collective aspirations and ambitions. Lastly, I must not fail to mention that women can play an important role within multilateralism, especially when it comes to fighting or putting an end to wars and protecting the environment. We often have a greater awareness and sensitivity to these issues because we are the ones that take care of people and the environment. That is why we need to look at important issues such as the violence against the people of Palestine, which affects greatly women and children there. Colombia has made the commitment to promote a gender-based approach to protect the rights of women. Together, we will continue to move forward to build a world of justice for all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Muchas gracias, señora viceministra.
Thank you very much, Vice Minister, for those remarks and for sharing with us the direction that you are moving in and the news about the Assembly of Delegates. Thank you also for your remarks about economic empowerment and autonomy of women. We are grateful for your contribution. I would now ask the Secretariat to please play the video commemorating the Day of Women of the Americas.
Día de la Mujer de las Américas, honramos a todas las mujeres que trabajan con amor y resiliencia sosteniendo nuestras comunidades.
En el Día de la Mujer de las Américas, celebramos la resiliencia de quienes con su esfuerzo cambian vidas y construyen sueños.
En el Día de la Mujer en las Américas, recordamos la importancia de fortalecer los marcos legales para construir sociedades libres de violencia, con igualdad sustantiva y respeto a la dignidad humana.
En el Día de la Mujer de las Américas, honramos a las mujeres cuyos aportes fortalecen nuestra región y renovamos nuestro compromiso para que todas sean reconocidas, escuchadas y protagonistas del futuro.
En el Día de la Mujer de las Américas, reafirmamos el valor y la grandeza de cada mujer que trabaja por un futuro mejor.
On the Day of Women in the Americas, we remember that every act of dedication and commitment builds a better tomorrow for all.
On the Day of Women in the Americas, we reaffirm our commitment to justice and equality for all.
On the Day of Women of the Americas, we recognize the transformative power of every woman who, through her efforts, shapes the destiny of her community.
En el Día de la Mujer de las Américas recordamos que la igualdad es un derecho, no un privilegio, y debemos seguir defendiéndolo.
En cette journée de la femme des Amériques, la France rend hommage et reconnaît la lutte incessante de tant de femmes pour rendre un monde meilleur possible.
Y hoy también celebramos los 97 años de la Convención Interamericana de Mujeres. Celebramos y conmemoramos el gran legado de la igualdad de estas mujeres a esta organización y a la región. Es un mandato protegerlo, es un mandato por todas las que estuvieron, pero sobre todo es un mandato por las mujeres que vienen.
Agradecemos a la Secretaría.
Thank you very much to the Secretariat of SEAM for having led this initiative. I thank the permanent representative of Costa Rica as well as the ambassadors who all participated in that video. I am pleased now to offer the floor to Ms. Alejandra Mora Mora, Executive Secretariat of the Inter-American Commission of Women, who will share her views on the contribution of women to multilateralism. Secretary Mora Mora, welcome. You have the floor. Thank you very much, Ambassador Acevedo, Chair of the Council. I would also like to recognize the President of SIM and the Vice Minister of Women's Affairs of Colombia. Greetings to everyone gathered here today, and special greetings to the women in the region. We are commemorating the Day of Women of the Americas, and we need to talk about their strength, resilience, and transformation. And here it's very important to connect this to human rights. I would also like to send very warm regards to the women here at the Permanent Council and commend you for this lovely initiative. It is always such an honor to speak to the Permanent Council, especially today because we are commemorating the Day of Women of the Americas and the 97th anniversary of SIM. It's also very important to support the words that were shared with us by the Vice Minister from Colombia who just spoke and who also mentioned the preparation for the Assembly of Delegates of SIM. Over the past 97 years, we've been working to promote equality of women, and we haven't been alone. We've benefited from the leadership of states, international organizations, NGOs, and women of the region. The president of SIM, Minister Palacio, has worked a great deal, and in 2025 we look forward to continuing to promote our international commitments in this area, especially because We need to listen to the voices of women and hear what their needs are, especially in a house such as this, which works to promote human rights. And it will be very important to continue supporting that progress. I would like to spend some time talking about the main theme, which is a foreign policy that includes women's rights. The OAS General Assembly adopted a resolution that speaks to this, the full and egalitarian participation of women. And the approach of this feminist foreign policy is important to underscore. This policy, well, we know that many countries in the region already have such a policy, in addition to observer states. And there are a few important pillars that we want to stress. The agenda of protecting human rights, the agenda of promoting equality, as well as increasing the representation of women in diplomatic and leadership positions in foreign ministries in order to create strategic partnerships that share with countries that share similar values. Now, despite this, in terms of political representation, we're not always where we want to be. At the UN, there are 25% of the members who are women. And the same is true at the OAS in Geneva, in Vienna. We see that the highest number is about 33%. When we look at negotiators, only 13% of those individuals are women. And when we look at other areas, we see these percentages drop as low as 6%. There are 18 peace agreements involving the UN, and only a few of those have been signed by women's groups. These documents need to have provisions on women and children. All of this flies in the face of the fact that we have evidence that when you have more participation of women, these agreements are more sustainable and more successful over time. In this context, we are working within SIM to make a contribution to this process, which is to carry out a diagnostic assessment in a participatory manner of foreign ministries. We've already done this in Dominican Republic and Honduras, and negotiations are now underway at the request of the Forest Ministry of Costa Rica. This diagnostic assessment will help us identify where women are, and that's important because we need to know not just how many women are involved, but where they are, what types of positions they have, what transparency and accountability measures are in place to help countries improve their gender agenda with the involvement of civil society. Foreign ministries have an important role to play when it comes to developing public policies that promote women, especially helping them to access leadership positions. SIM will continue to move forward to carry out the mandates entrusted to us by the General Assembly, the Permanent Council, and the Assembly of Delegates of SIM.
We will continue working on climate change, peace, and digitalization, artificial intelligence, and also on economic rights. We will continue to promote the participation of all women in multilateralism and multilateral posts, particularly where big decisions are made. And we will continue to work so that nobody will take us away from protecting the rights of all women. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Secretary Mora Mora, for your comments on the impact and the importance of women's contributions in multilateralism. Also, congratulations to the SIM for commemorating these 97 years. And this is a lot of intense work with regards to respect for human rights for women in the region. To round off this set of comments, I'm very happy to give the floor to Maria Corbalan, coordinator of ADEM, and she is coordinator of the Coalition for Women's Human Rights of the OAS, a member of the Association for Women's Human Rights. This concerns multilateralism. Madam, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, Vice Chairman, Secretary General of the OAS, authorities of the Inter-American Commission on Women, distinguished delegations, women delegates, everyone, civil society organizations as as coordinator of the Coalition for Women's Human Rights of the OAS. We truly appreciate the opportunity to commemorate alongside you this day of women of the Americas. We should like to thank you for the invitation to be able to be here and to underscore the importance and the importance that it has for us when we look at women in civil society and as it is organized for multilateralism with which is a place for cooperation and where we can knit together the women's movement in the region so that we can have a dialogue and so that we can continue to make contributions towards the objectives and goals of the Organization of American States. For decades, the civil society organizations have worked for women's rights, for sexual and reproductive rights. These are also human rights. We've worked so that they are recognized and guaranteed in the inter-American system, which we today value. The fight for justice has also found in these arenas a channel so that our voices can be heard and to comply with the commitments taken on by states. Since 2019, multifarious organizations in Latin America, the Caribbean, and Argentina, and so on, we work in the Coalition of Human Rights for Women here in the OAS, contributing and making contributions, and with a territorial, intersectional approach of fundamental rights. I mention this because I feel that it's important to share with you some thoughts, some reflections in terms of how we are studying our reality today. And this is in the context of increasing issues on democracy. We're very concerned with this, and there are some fundamentalists moves that are taking place, and these measures are restrictive so that we can exercise our rights. And this affects women in different ways and also affects the rights that they have. So that political participation of women has also been hard hit within the framework of these setbacks. And this affects our democracies because of that. And this has cost us in the region. It's in this context and along this vein that we would like to renew our commitment to continue talking, dialoguing, working together so that we can have lives free of violence, free of repression and oppression. In this scenario, we would like to kindly urge member states to reaffirm their commitment, which we know they've always had, by signing on to human rights for women, and to guarantee that the resolutions that are adopted at the next General Assembly of the OAS, we understand that that's going to be held in Antigua and Bermuda in a few months down the line, that we do so, and that we understand that our coalition is a must to be there, and the principle of not moving backwards. This is the best thing that we have as we commemorate our Day of Women of the Americas. To celebrate this, we have to take specific political decisions to shore up things and to make progress in those things that we still have pending. For this, it is imperative also, and here I make a clarion call, to take on your political commitments and to respect the language already agreed in the instruments in the inter-American system. This works to guarantee the rights of all women in all our diversity and over the cycle of our life. Resolution shouldn't be threatened, but rather shored up by our political decisions. We look at these contributions and coordination from the standpoint of the expertise and all that civil society has to offer. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Corbalan, for your comments on civil society in multilateralism. We appreciate your contribution and work for rights of women. Next, I offer the floor to the delegations who wish to make comments to commemorate Women's Day in the Americas. I would like to very kindly ask you to abide by the 5 minutes time, given that we have other items on the agenda. I'd like to give the floor then to the representative from Bolivia, Ambassador. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Bolivia truly appreciates the presentations made, particularly from the Minister of Panama and President of the Inter-American Commission of Women, Mrs. Uriola, Carmen Palacio Uriola, and the Minister of Colombia, and Alejandra Mora Mora, Secretary of the SIM, and Maria Jose Corbalan, Coordinator of the Coalition for Women's Human Rights of the OAS. We truly appreciate their presentations. This is a day to celebrate so many female personalities in this session. The plurinational state of Bolivia, as part of the Group of Articulation for Women and Children and Gender Equality, has asked for the inclusion of this topic on the agenda, given its importance and the importance of recognizing the SIM, which was created on the 17th of February, 1928. It's almost 100 years of work to promote the full-fledged equal participation and leadership of women when taking decisions. The commemoration of this year coincides with the 30th anniversary of the Declaration and Platform of Beijing, which established the importance of eliminating systematic barriers that preclude equal participation of women in all arenas of life and public or private life. Madam Chairman, Bolivia is a country which is deeply committed to equalness, equal conditions between men and women, as stipulated in our political constitution of the state. Our commitment is with the political participation, which was equitable, in equal conditions between men and women. And along that line, then, we have spearheaded policies for equal participation of women in all the branches, legislative, etc. Through our own standards, we have established equal participation of women in all spheres of political and institutional life of the state and at all levels of the government. We have promoted this as a policy of the state, which is about crafting public policies from plurinational identity to make visible and to do away with patriarchy through looking at customs, behaviors, and unequal behaviors of oppression, exploitation, unequal participation as held by men. Equal opportunities between men and women is what we go for, so as to have their collective rights, looking at alternating and in the lists of candidates that we have for all government posts and representation, as well as for internal election of leadership posts and other candidacies for political organizations and the standards of all nations and indigenous peoples. Madam Chairman, we understand the institutional importance and the meeting that was held in Paz for holding general elections this year, and 16 points were agreed on, one of which is precisely to spearhead obligatory alternating for candidates for the president and vice president of Bolivia in the next elections when it comes to men and women. Political will of the government is very firm, and every day we strengthen public policies for full participation of women when it comes to decision making, and we recognize that it's an uphill struggle. There's still a lot of different challenges to reach this so desired and coveted equality. In the work of the SIM, this is an indispensable blueprint so that we can continue to move along the right track, and we truly value and we appreciate your work. Also, it's going to be important to evaluate some of the challenges that we have and that we will have during the 69th regular session of the Social Inter-American Commission, as well as the 40th meeting of Women's Delegate of the Inter-American Commission of Women, which is envisaged for the 28th, 29th of April in Colombia. Today, we commemorate the Day of Women in the Americas, and we reiterate our firm commitment to promote and defend all rights of women, especially for their full participation on equal terms. Madam Chairman, there's no more noble work than to look for equality between men and women and the preeminence of women. Hopefully, all institutions that I referred to, that were referred to by the Secretary of SIM, have a similar moment as we have now at the top table. More women than men. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador. The permanent representative of Brazil has the floor. Brazil. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I truly appreciate all the panelists who gave us very important contributions today. The delegation of Brazil would also like to pay tribute to all our compatriots who made valuable contributions for settlement of conflicts and for the betterment of states. This is an exercise that is greatly valued. We have many Brazilian women who contributed and continue to contribute enormously for a better situation. I'm just going to quote two names just by way of example. Flora de Vera Lima, first delegate to the Inter-American Commission of Women, to promote human rights of women and children, girl children, and Madame Global, Esta Luz, who, alongside other Latin American delegates, guaranteed that the Charter of the United Nations become one of the first international instruments to look at the need of equal rights between men and women. Madam Chairman, human rights and the reduction of inequalities are priorities as we craft public policies in the Brazilian government. In this context, then, the fight against gender inequalities takes on a central role. We believe that gender equality is imperative to build more prosperous societies and more just societies. It's impossible to think about gender equality without talking about care and public policies. The use of time of women in social organization of time is also important. Oxfam feels that women are part of the overall global economy, and at least 10.8 million now, more than 3/4 of unremunerated work for care. Now, given that reality in Brazil, President Lula sanctioned in last December a law that is a national policy for care. The new law has as its basis guarantee quality care for anybody who needs it, in addition to valuing the world for anybody who's cared for, so that we have equal between men and women, considering the many existent inequalities and looking at women who are overburdened with this kind of work. The new law seeks to change women's reality who are overburdened with domestic work and family work, and to craft adequate policies and efficient qualities for all people who need care. Madam Chairman, Brazil condemns gender violence. Our commitment is seen in the constant struggle and the support of Belém do Pará, and recognizes violence against women as a violation of human rights. A budget for the group to empower women in the G20. We sanctioned the law of salary equality, looking to slash disparities between men and women and to implement salary transparency, in addition to work to ratify ILO conventions. There's still a lot of work to be done. We know, for example, that the law of salary equality, this law is for formal work, but we still have to have work done for this population. So there is the serious problem of the assassination of women and girl children, and this has to be combated with specific measures in the political and framework of norms and standards. We adopted in 2023 then the National Pact for the Prevention of Femicide to prevent and fight against femicide. The Brazilian government continues committed to coming up with some of the best strategies when it comes to this very serious problem. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Now I should like to give the floor to the delegate of Peru. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. On behalf of the Permanent Mission of Peru, we truly appreciate the Permanent Council for putting this item, commemoration of the Day of Women of the Americas, for this session, as well as the distinguished panelists for their thoughts that have been shared with us. we would like to go along with the recognition of the work that the Inter-American Commission of Women and everything that it does in the promotion of rights of women and equality. In this regard, I would like to support all of the activities that have been carried out in 2024 by SIM and that are geared towards strengthening capacity of all states. We look at prevention and upholding rights for women in the Americas. And as such, then I'd like to recognize the outstanding work of the Technical Secretariat upholding the McSaby Convention and the dedication of the 9th Conference of States Parties celebrated in June 2024. In this forum, we had the commitment of states parties and the declaration on strategies to implement the Inter-American Convention and to eradicate violence against women, as well as approval of the new strategic plan for the next 5 years. Now, in this process, we were honored to be the vice chair so that we could honor all of the people and the work that was done. I hope we continue committed to everything this organization does to protect rights of women, as well as the initiative to make women that transform Americas more visible, and that they are included in the gallery of heroes or heroines. And thus we will work tirelessly so that we can have Peruvian representation in this space and thus contribute to recognize the crucial role that women play in the transformation of our societies. And similarly then in Peru, in the Ministry of Women, we have a focus to promote economic rights of women. This is for 2024. We were able to build capacity for many entrepreneurs, 16 or many different women, and we had about $60,000 in this endeavor. And as such then, the national system for work against violence with these services in the different departments benefit about 49,000 people all told. So in this context, it is crucial to underscore the importance of the active participation of women in these decision-making places and in multilateralism. Their leadership and contributions are crucial to come up with inclusive solutions, those that can be sustained worldwide. We hope that this commemoration will serve as a point of memory for a future to deal with the issues when it comes to equality. Peru's commitment is unwavering. When working together hand in hand, we will have a more just world. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Peru. I'd like to give the floor to the permanent representative of Barbados.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Permanent Mission of Barbados has the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the 14 member states of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, as we commemorate the Day of Women in the Americas. We unite with all other member states of the OAS to celebrate the advancements made in the empowerment of women and gender equality. While doing so, we also reflect on the work still to be done to achieve fully our regional vision, a vision in which all citizens actively participate in and benefit with equity from the growth and development of our countries. We recognize that this noble and imperative aspiration is a collective task and that transformational change can only be realized when women and girls are provided the chance for equal opportunities. Beyond the necessity for gender equality in all sectors of our societies, we remain troubled that violence against women and girls remains prevalent in all of our societies, with an inherent prejudice in our religions, legal, and even family culture. Much has been done to remedy these anachronistic tendencies, but much more must be done to lift our nations out of this morass of leftover backwardness. We must not only commit to doing so, we must also act to achieve it. Madam Chair, in the CARICOM sub-region, Our member states have not only ratified international conventions, but many of us have also introduced legislation and policy initiatives that actively promote the advancement of women. This has been most marked in terms of access to tertiary education and the right to enter the highest levels of the public and private sector. Hence, in Barbados, for example, the head of state is a woman, as well as the head of government and the deputy, by the way. And throughout the government sectors in CARICOM countries, women command the highest positions, as they also do in the private sector, including as bank managers and heads of significant private sector companies. It is in this context that we call on all member states of this OAS and on the organization itself to give specific and special consideration and attention to the condition of women and girls where historic economic circumstances have led to persistent and acute poverty, and to the grave vulnerabilities of women and girls particularly. Madam Chair, as we look to the future in these uncertain times, the eradication of poverty must be viewed as a central objective of our collective agenda. A people-centered approach must be articulated as an imperative contributor to social inclusion, gender equality, and the empowerment of women. Women have as an important a role and a contribution to make as men, not only in government, but as active participants in the use of skills and knowledge to expand opportunities and secure a better equality and a better quality of life for all of our countries. But the principles of equity and access must move beyond a commitment in words to actions in deeds. As we commemorate the Day of Women in the Americas, CARICOM countries wholeheartedly endorse the theme of International Women's Day: for all women and girls, rights, equality, empowerment. We join others around the Americas to insist on transformational change for more just and equitable societies in which women play the part that they and all of our nations deserve and need. Madam Chair, I thank you.
Muchas gracias, embajador.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I'd like to now give the floor to the Permanent Representative of Costa Rica. Thank you very much. I'm really very much to address this work in this very important session in this Permanent Council meeting. We truly recognize the presence of the Executive Secretary of SIM, and of course, all of the permanent representatives and all of the other speakers that we've had. Costa Rica truly appreciates the participation that we have had today by the Minister Palacio, Minister of Women of Panama and President of the SIM, as well as the Vice Minister of Colombia, representing the Vice Presidency of the country of Colombia, Mrs. Marquez. The General Assembly of the OAS in '82 decided to celebrate the creation of SIM 97 years ago. And this has given us an opportunity to reflect on all of the progress that we've made in this area. And at the same time, it invites us to renew our commitment to promote and protect rights for women and continue to look for equality for women in the hemisphere. As a reminder, in building fair, inclusive societies where participation for women and leadership is guaranteed. That is our quest. The commemoration of this debt reminds us of the constant struggle of women for their rights and their crucial role in our society. We celebrate the contributions of women not just as change agents, but also reaffirm our commitment to spearhead their participation in all arenas, promoting specific actions that ensure their inclusion in decision-making arenas. And at the same time, in the development for communities where they live and work. Women have been undeniably spearheaders when it comes to equitable societies. Their leadership, resilience, and commitment have been keys for progress of our nations. It's imperative to continue to support their contributions and ensuring that we have policies that guarantee equal opportunities and eliminate any form of discrimination, particularly gender violence. So in this regard, then, we underscore the declaration adopted by this Permanent Council on the 21st of November, 2024, which reaffirms for the OAS and the OAS as a equal space for all women, with the support of the Secretary General, Luis Almagro, and the Executive Secretary of SIM, Alejandra Mora Mora.
Its implementation is key in order to strengthen mechanisms that ensure an environment free from violence and discrimination. A few days ago in San Jose, the Council of Ministers of Women of Central America and the Dominican Republic, under the leadership of the Minister for Women's Affairs of Costa Rica, presented a work plan for gender in Central America and the Dominican Republic for January to June 2025 during the pro tem chairmanship of Costa Rica of the Central American Integration System, or CICA. This plan seeks to strengthen strategic actions for gender equity and empowerment of women in our region. Costa Rica has a history that is marked by brave women who have fought for equality, including Doña Lacuna Brown, who worked to uphold the political and civil rights of women in Costa Rica and in the region. Her legacy continues to inspire us, and we are proud to have her represented at the Gallery of Heroines of the Americas at this organization to recognize women who have transformed our region. Vice Chair, it is also fundamental to recognize women whose brave work further develops the social fabric of our societies. Women who are farmers, housewives, teachers, entrepreneurs. They build the futures of their families and their communities. They are an essential pillar for development and social justice. In that regard, we recognize the video that we just screened today. It was a joint initiative with most of the ambassadors and heads of missions to the OAS with SIM. It sent a resolute message for all women of the region who support their communities through their work, love, and resilience. As a career ambassador and head of the Costa Rican mission to the OAS, I am deeply honored and proud to be part of this history through my work, which is of course supported by my team, so that we can carry forward strategies and initiatives to wave the flag of equality. We are working to continue the legacy of those who came before us. We will continue to move forward with the certainty that every step that we take will help strengthen our future and make it more equitable, fair, and filled with opportunities for women. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I give the floor to the Ambassador of Paraguay. Thank you very much, Vice Chair of the Permanent Council. Thank you very much to all of the panelists for their very interesting presentations today. I would also like to congratulate the Inter-American Commission of Women for that commemorative video that we just saw, which was prepared with our dear colleagues. Congratulations. My delegation would like to join in this commemoration of the Day of Women of the Americas by thanking the delegations who asked for this item to be included on today's agenda. Celebrating this date allows us to recognize women and put them front and center. Throughout history, they have fought and made key contributions to make changes at the civil and political levels so that our region can be increasingly fair and inclusive. This is why we would like to pay tribute to these brave women, including Paraguayan women, Concepcion Leyes de Chavez, among others, who have all fought for women's rights in my country. But this day is also an occasion to reflect upon the obstacles that women continue to face in our region, obstacles to their full enjoyment of their rights, such as discrimination and violence. This date is also important to reaffirm the commitment of member states to remove these obstacles by addressing the structural causes that affect the full and equal participation of women and their leadership in every area. In that framework, my country reaffirms its support for SIM. It was created on this very day years ago in 1928 to protect the human rights of women and to adopt an approach that considers women's needs. The cause of equality was made more visible, and SIM has also helped to raise awareness when it comes to building societies that are truly democratic, where no one is left behind. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. I offer the floor to the delegation of the United States.
Chair, thank you to our speakers. The United States strongly supports protecting women and girls, defending their human rights, and promoting their empowerment, including in the Americas. As Secretary Rubio has noted, what happens in this region is going to impact the United States directly sooner than something that is happening in any other part of the world. And the high rate of violence against women and girls, including that perpetrated by gangs, is a significant and often overlooked cause of migration, which directly impacts our regional security and the public safety of the United States. Migration also commonly exposes women and girls to exploitation, trafficking in persons, forced labor, and other forms of violence along the way. The safety of women and girls must be central to solutions to curb illegal migration and secure the U.S. border. In 2017, my government passed the Women, Peace, and Security Act, the first comprehensive law in the world on this issue. This historic legislation helps guide our efforts to prevent and resolve conflicts that threaten U.S. national security, which cannot be achieved without the safety and participation of women and girls. Discrimination and limited access to economic opportunities also commonly influence the decision of women and their families to migrate. In 2019, President Trump established the Women's Global Development and Prosperity Initiative, the first whole-of-government effort to advance global women's economic empowerment. This initiative has reached over 12 million women worldwide since its establishment, including in the Americas. And finally, last month, President Trump issued an executive order defending women from gender ideology and restoring the biological reality of the male and female sex. As noted in that order, and I quote, "Efforts to eradicate the biological reality of sex fundamentally attack women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, and well-being. The United States will defend women's rights and protect freedom of conscience by using clear and accurate language in policies that recognize that women are biologically female and men are biologically male. It is important to acknowledge the biological reality of sex to ensure our efforts in the Americas reflect the needs and perspectives of women and girls." Thank you, Chair.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I offer the floor to the Permanent Representative and Ambassador of Mexico. Thank you very much, Chair. My delegation is very grateful to all of the permanent representatives and delegates at this permanent council, because the agenda for women is a matter that concerns all of us, not just women, and it is a central topic for democracy. I would like to recognize Secretary Alejandra Mora Mora. Mexico is grateful for the presentations given by the distinguished panelists on this anniversary of SIM. It is an appropriate time to recall the challenges and gaps that women still face, young women, girls, and women in all of their diversity in the region, our region, which is the most unequal in the world. the people who are the poorest and who face the most discrimination, exclusion, and vulnerability continue to be women. In accordance with the Global Report on Gender Gaps by the World Economic Forum from 2023, at the current rate of progress, it won't be until 2050 that the world achieves full parity. That means another 5 generations for democracies where half of the population have full access to their rights and take part in decisions that affect them in public and private fora, so that they can live free from violence and have a real opportunity for sustainable development. CIM is the multilateral forum that is the most active when it comes to women's issues, and it is an active part of the OAS. Since its creation, Mexico has supported CIM resolutely to help it carry out its work. Under the administration of our president, Claudia Sheinbaum, Mexico's feminist foreign policy works not only to continue these efforts, but to accelerate this transformation in order to address this urgent commitment to address historic injustices that have affected women. In August of 2025, Mexico will host the 16th Conference on Women for Latin America and the Caribbean, which is co-organized with ECLAC and UN Women. Mexico hosted the first edition of this conference in 1975 in Tlatelolco, which is a historic site that recognizes what the Mexican people worked for to change their destiny. We will host this next conference under the leadership of our first female president, Claudia Sheinbaum. And this reminds us that she did not reach the most important political position in our country alone. She brought all women with her. In this way, Mexico is seeing greater work on public policy to improve women's rights. My country extends a cordial invitation to member states of the OAS so that we can work together to promote women's rights, carry forward public policies that ensure the respect for dignity of all peoples. We invite you to attend and reflect upon these issues. Democracy and regional prosperity can be achieved with the full participation of all women, with respect for their dignity and their right to lead a life free from violence. Peace, Madam Chair, is a result of justice, and there is no justice if half of the population is not respected when it comes to their rights. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. I offer the floor now to the Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Panama. Thank you very much, Chair. I would like to extend a very cordial greeting to the Minister of Women for Colombia, Tamara Ospina, and to the Minister of Women's Affairs of Panama, Niorca del Palacio, to Ms. Alejandra Mora, and Ms. Maria Jose Corbalan. Thank you for your participation and excellent presentations. We are grateful that this topic has been included on today's agenda. It is important to think about the challenges and progress when it comes to promoting women's rights in the Americas. In 1982, the OAS declared that 18 February is the Day of Women of the Americas. And this also coincides with the anniversary of the creation of CIM in 1928. This is a pioneering organization, and it has played a key role in defending and promoting women's political and civil rights in the region. Throughout its history, CIM has promoted policies and programs that have strengthened gender equality women's rights and have helped contribute to the comprehensive development of our nations. Panama remains firmly committed to promoting the agenda of all women. We've created a Ministry for Women's Affairs, which shows our efforts to address women's rights in Panama. It is led by Her Excellency Niorca del Carmen Palacio Uriola, who is also the president of SIM. And the ministry has promoted an agenda focused on economic empowerment of women and protection of their rights. Public policies have been crafted to ensure that all women, regardless of their geographic location, have access to equal opportunities and to a life free from violence. During our chairmanship or presidency of SIM, Panama has worked to make this agenda more visible in the Americas. We have also fostered dialogue and collaboration among member states to share best practices and develop strategies together in order to address gender inequalities, with the aim of continuing to strengthen SIM and promoting women's rights in the region. Panama has presented its candidacy for the presidency of SIM for the 2025-2028 period, with Minister Palacio at the helm. We will work closely with member states in order to create more just and equal societies for all women in the Americas. On this day, on the occasion of this commemoration, we reaffirm our commitment to the promotion and protection of women's rights, and we recognize their key role as agents of change and development in our nations. Together, we will continue to work to eliminate the barriers that hinder their full development and participation in all areas of society. I thank you. Thank you very much. I offer the floor now to the delegation of St. Lucia.
Thank you, Chair. On the outset, my delegation aligns with the statement delivered by the delegation of Barbados on behalf of CARICOM. We also express our appreciation to the presenters. We convey best wishes to all women of the Americas on this Day of Women in the Americas on behalf of the Honorable Dr. Virginia Albert Poyot, Minister for the Public Service, Labor and Gender Affairs of St. Lucia. She is also the Vice President of the Inter-American Commission of Women. We applaud the work the SIM has done and continues to do to champion the rights of women across the hemisphere. My delegation proudly celebrates the invaluable contribution of women across our hemisphere, particularly the extraordinary women of St. Lucia who continue to shape our nation's development, inspire progress across the Caribbean, and make a lasting impact on the world stage. We particularly honor those who, through their courage, dedication, and vision, continue to break barriers and pave the way for future generations. St. Lucian women have long been at the forefront of national advancement, demonstrating resilience, leadership, and innovation across various sectors. They have made significant strides in governance, holding key positions in government and public administration. Their leadership has been instrumental in shaping policies that promote social justice, economic empowerment, and sustainable development. As educators and mentors, St. Lucian women have been at the heart of shaping future generations. Their dedication to teaching, research, and advocacy has transformed lives and contribute to the intellectual growth of the Caribbean and beyond. Women-led businesses and enterprises in St. Lucia continue to drive economic growth, particularly in industries such as tourism, agriculture, technology, and the creative arts, both in rural and urban communities. Through innovation and determination, they are creating jobs, fostering economic resilience, and promoting financial independence for themselves and their communities. Our nation boasts of a rich cultural heritage, and St. Lucia women have been instrumental in preserving and promoting our identity through literature, music, fashion, and the arts. Their contributions have resonated across the Caribbean and the wider Americas, enhancing regional cultural appreciation and influence. They have made remarkable strides in sports, excelling in various disciplines and serving as powerful role models for young athletes across the island, the Caribbean, and the world. Their achievements in athletics, netball, cricket, and other competitive sports have not only brought St. Lucian pride, but have also contributed to elevating St. Lucia on the global stage. The Honorable Dr. Virginia Albert Poyot, Minister for the Public Service, Labor, and Gender Affairs, and the Vice President of the Inter-American Commission of Women, continues to be a strong advocate for gender equality, social justice, and the protection of human rights. Her efforts have led to increased awareness and policy changes that support the empowerment of women and marginalized groups, thus strengthening the overall development of St. Lucia. In closing, Chair, my delegation recognizes the commitment and hard work of the women of the various missions who represent their respective countries at this organization, the ambassadors and the alternates. We also extend our heartfelt appreciation to the remarkable women employed in this organization for their unwavering commitment to advancing the shared interests of our hemisphere. Your service and dedication are instrumental in building a brighter, more equitable future for the Americas. I thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I offer the floor to the delegation of Uruguay. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Firstly, my delegation would like to recognize the permanent representative of the Dominican Republic as coordinate of the group for the rights of women and girls and gender equality. Thank you for asking for this important topic to be included on today's agenda. I also thank the Executive Secretary of SIM, Alejandra Mora Mora, for her work and ongoing support to help us address this very important issue. Chair, the International Day of Women of the Americas, celebrated every year on 18 February, as established in 1982 by the OAS General Assembly, commemorates the creation of the Inter-American Commission of Women in 1928. Its very existence has been key. Since 1983 in Uruguay, we have a decree in place to celebrate the Day of Women of the Americas with the aim of developing new initiatives and programs of action to ensure the full integration of women in the process of development in our country and in the Americas. As part of this, Uruguay pays tribute to women in the Americas and to SIM, the first organization in the world of an intergovernmental nature that was created to help recognize the political and civil rights of women in the Americas. It is the only political forum in the Americas that addresses gender equality and women's rights. Chair, the objective of this day is to value and pay tribute to the role that the women in the Americas have played in our societies, and to help drive new programs and initiatives to promote women in our countries. States must remain vigilant and committed to progress with respect to women's rights without taking any steps backwards. On the occasion of this commemoration, Uruguay avails itself of this opportunity to recognize the many female activists in Uruguay who have worked over the years. And I'd specifically like to talk about Paulina Luisi. She was the first female medical doctor She was a gynecologist who advocated for sexual education. She founded the Socialist Party in 1910 and one of the first trade unions of telephone operators. She also promoted women's publications and was key in the fight for women's suffrage. Paulina Luisi was a staunch suffragette who did her utmost to promote the political and civil rights of women. She also notably participated in the League of Nations for a decade. She was the only female Latin American delegate who worked on issues such as protection of youth and children and to fight poor treatment of women and children. She was also part of the Conference on Disarmament, and she was one of the only women who took part in the assembly that addressed the conflict with China that same year. She shows that women on all continents who are separated by national borders or ethnic, cultural, language, economic, and political differences. Despite these differences, these women can join together to fight for equality, justice, peace, and development. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much to you. I offer the floor to the delegation of the Dominican Republic. Thank you very much, Chair. On behalf of the delegations of Bolivia, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Mexico, Panama, Uruguay, and the Dominican Republic, we would like to thank the chair of the Permanent Council for including this commemoration on today's order of business. In addition, we would like to express our gratitude to the panelists for their presentations, and we were very grateful for their participation. Chair, today I will speak on behalf of the Dominican Republic. Today we are commemorating the Day of Women of the Americas, and we are celebrating the 97th anniversary of the creation of the Inter-American Commission of Women. We should use this time to recognize and congratulate SIM for the important work that it has done in our countries, and for the fact that it is the first intergovernmental organization in the world that is exclusively dedicated to women's rights, and the first of its kind created in this region. It's been almost a century that SIM has been able to help women raise their voices and demand their rights when it comes to access to education, labor, and health, among others. These rights have been recognized, or should I say, they have been claimed by women, by us, yet there is still much work to be done. It is in creating this path that here I would like to thank all of our female colleagues, ambassadors, delegates from the Americas, who day to day work to promote and continue to protect those rights. I would like to also underscore the work by the Executive Secretary of SIM, Alejandra Mora Mora, and her team, who are working tirelessly to achieve that goal. Chair, I'd like to use this opportunity also to mention a few women from the Dominican Republic who have played an important role in the history of multilateralism, not just in the region, but on the global stage, and who are part of the legacy we are commemorating today. One woman was an active participant in the creation of SIM. She promoted the political rights of women in Latin America. She was the representative of our country when it came to signing the UN Charter, and one of the few female delegates who took part in that historic moment. And she helped enshrine the principles of gender equality in that charter. 3 of our ministers of women's affairs have been presidents of SIM: Maya Jimenez, who is a current minister, Janet Camilo, and others. They have worked to promote policies to eliminate violence and discrimination against women and to promote gender equality and to protect the rights of women in the region. There is also Julia Tavares de Alvarez, who was an alternate representative to the UN and a real pioneer when it came to promoting human rights, especially for elderly persons and in our country. She is known as the ambassador of the elderly due to all of these contributions. There are other women who have played important roles to help establish the day to eliminate violence against women. other women have left their mark upon the history of multilateralism in the inter-American system, in the UN system, and in the trade associations of our organization, and in many other areas. It's impossible to name each and every one of them, but they are here. They are present in the progress that we make in the Americas and around the world. We must continue working to strengthen the presence of women in multilateral and diplomatic spaces, with a view to ensuring that we make more fair and equal decisions to help our societies. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias a usted.
Thank you very much. Delegate of El Salvador has the floor. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. We truly appreciate the permanent missions who requested that this very important point be put on the agenda and the relevant contributions of all the panelists who are with us today. El Salvador joins in the commemoration of the Day of Women in the Americas, recognizing their value and contributions to political, social, economic, and cultural development of the hemisphere. We are happy and pay tribute that we are underscoring the importance of women's role in multilateralism as a space for joint building. Similarly, we should like to congratulate the SIM and the Executive Secretary, Alejandra Mora Mora, and her entire team for a commemoration of 97 years of SIM. We have underscored the invaluable work and recognize this work in favor of respect and development of women's rights in the region. Madam Chairman, remembering the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that stipulates and establishes that all people have the right to participate in the government of their country and guarantees this on equal conditions in public spheres, we underscore the relevance of having efficient mechanisms that favor the full-fledged participation of women in all levels where decisions are made. To achieve this and other objectives, various instruments internationally have been adopted within the universal framework. They promote the protection and the recognition of women's rights, and particularly the right to participate in political and public life. These efforts show that active participation of women in multilateral spaces is not only a fundamental right, but also a driving force to move towards a more inclusive, sustainable world. Today, women's contributions in multilateralism goes into and over and above traditional areas such as education and health. This reflects their capacity to promote critical issues such as climate change, economic justice, the fight against gender violence, security, peace, and development, in addition to others, from an integral, all-encompassing framework. El Salvador recognizes the crucial importance of women's participation in public arenas. This is a crucial element for development of democracy. Their representation in the different government entities is not only relevant, but also imperative. This shows that when women occupy these decision-making areas, they promote public policies, laws, and changes that have a positive and long-lasting impact on society. Similarly, El Salvador spearheaded in 2021, within the framework of UNESCO, the adoption of the 25th of January as the International Day for Women in Multilateralism, to recognize the crucial role that women have played when it comes to promoting human rights, peace, and sustainable development within the multilateral system. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is an example headed up by 3 main women. And similarly, and for the very first time around, the 3 multilateral representatives that are most important have ambassadors as heads of missions. Since 2022, we have had a network of Salvadoran women diplomats that look towards cooperation, and they want to empower participation and significant contributions of women in diplomacy, both at home as well as abroad. The network also promotes mentorship programs that accompanies and works with new generations of women diplomats through their own experience. They have been doing this for 10 years now. Madam Chairman, the Inter-American system has been a pioneer in promoting and protecting rights of women, where they play an essential role to strengthen cooperation and strategic alliances that push forward and make women's contributions more visible in the different spaces here at the OAS, as well as in member states. This effort should be doubled up in the General Secretariat of our organization to implement the representation of women in key posts where decisions are taken in the Inter-American agenda. Also equally important is the date that we have, and we have two permanent female representatives. This shows the state's commitment to increase participation in decision-making when it comes to issues of concern in the hemisphere. This underscores the synergy, the energy to create places for dialogue and to push forward common interests. We reaffirm our conviction to promote gender equality and the empowerment of women. These are crucial principles to deal with overall gaps, considering multilateralism as a platform to collectively build a better future for all nations. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jamaica has the floor.
El micrófono, por favor, no se escucha.
Microphone, please, so you can be heard.
Chair, Vice Minister of Women of Colombia, thank you for the inspiring presentation. Minister of Women Affairs of Panama, Secretary Mora Mora for the very informative presentation, prominent representatives, alternates, ladies and gentlemen. Chair, the Jamaican delegation is fully aligned to the statement delivered by the prominent representative of Barbados on behalf of CARICOM member states. It is my pleasure to join the commemoration of women in the Americas. As we celebrate this day, it is a poignant opportunity for us to pause and honor the remarkable social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women in the hemisphere. It is not only a time for reflection, but also a call to action, urging us to accelerate the journey towards gender equality and gender parity. Through hard work, unwavering dedication, and tenacity, women in the Americas have achieved extraordinary feats. Please allow me to pay tribute to some of our women who have either made significant contributions to our hemisphere or who continue to play an active role in the legislature, politics, the arts and culture, the film industry, businesses, and sports. In Jamaica, women are the backbone of the society, playing a pivotal role in all spheres of lives as farmers, teachers, doctors, nurses, sportsmen, businesses. Nanny of the Maroons, heroine in Jamaica. And we pay tribute also to her for her bravery and her role played in carving out our passage to independence. Senator the Honorable Camilla Johnson-Smith, our first female Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Rear Admiral Antoinette Wemyss Gorman, our first Chief of Staff of the Jamaica Defense Force. Female representation both in the Senate and the House of Representatives have increased exponentially over the years. Our women continue to play a pivotal role in making Jamaica a small island developing state, a household name on the global stage, and have expanded brand Jamaica, particularly in the field of sports, culture, and the arts, and especially in our reggae music. It is also noteworthy that all the backup singers to reggae icon Bob Marley were women. In the wider hemisphere, Shafika Maloney of St. Vincent and the Grenadines competed in the 2024 Olympics. Frida Kahlo of Mexico has left an indelible legacy as a pioneering artist and cultural icon who lives on in the hemisphere. Despite facing numerous challenges, including physical disabilities and chronic health issues, she boldly challenged societal norms and gender stereotypes. Sandra Kaufman of Costa Rica, a Costa Rican-American physicist and engineer, currently serves as the Deputy Director for the Earth Science Division at NASA's Science Mission Directorate. Her remarkable journey from her early years in Costa Rica to leading groundbreaking space missions exemplifies the limitless potential of women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics across the Americas. Chair, I took the time to highlight a few of these outstanding women of our hemisphere who have helped to shape the very foundation of our society, since time does not allow me to name the long list that exists. Although some of our iconic women have passed on many years ago, their legacy lives on and will undoubtedly continue to inspire generations to come. We must be mindful, however, that the involvement of our men and the education of our boys are indispensable requirements. Women are often victims of sexual violence during times of war, but it is our men who are at the front line. Women cannot achieve gender equality without the support of our men. But even as we celebrate the tremendous strides made by our women of the hemisphere, we must recognize that although rural women play such an indispensable role in food security, they need greater access to land. In addition, the vexed issue of violence against women and girls remains pervasive on a global scale, with approximately 736 million women having experienced physical and/or sexual violence from an intimate partner, non-partner sexual violence, or both at least once in their lives. Furthermore, we may have either witnessed this victimization firsthand or heard about it from people we know, or are bombarded by tragic stories of female victims of violence, either in the traditional media or on social media, or both on a daily basis. The extent that relentless advocacy serves as a powerful tool and strategy to challenge all forms of violence against women and girls, it requires the leveraging of a multi-stakeholder approach and partnership. The implementation of comprehensive strategies in partnership with other ministries, departments, and agencies, international development partners, private sector, non-government organizations, and other relevant members of civil society. It also involves the allocation of the necessary budgets, robust implementation policies, and the active monitoring and evaluation processes to facilitate the ongoing reporting on progress to end impunity and prevent violence against women and girls. In that context, the government of Jamaica has enacted several important legislation to address violence against women and establish shelters for the protection of the victims. Jamaica is a proud signatory of the Belém-do-Pará Convention and remains actively engaged in MESEGV monitoring and evaluation mechanism, and looks forward to the participation in the upcoming conference to be held later this year. In closing, on this 97th anniversary, let us commend the Inter-American Commission on Women for the excellent work being undertaken in the hemisphere in the strengthening of the collaboration with member states. I also commend the OAS for the designation of the Hall of Heroines and Heroes, and implore member states to contribute a portrait of outstanding women for display. Let me reiterate the commitment of the government of Jamaica as we continue to work towards cohesively towards creating a gender-harmonious society in which all persons feel valued, safe, protected, and their human rights are recognized, respected, and upheld. Chair, I thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I now offer the floor to the representative of Haiti. Thank you very much, Chair. On this Day of Women of the Americas, we have the opportunity to celebrate the progress made in the area of women's rights in our hemisphere, but also to measure how much we still need to do to ensure real equality and protection of women and girls. My delegation supports the declaration presented on behalf of CARICOM. Within our organization, we recognize the important role played by the Inter-American Commission of Women, which works tirelessly to promote women's rights and leadership. Its crucial work shows that throughout the Americas, women are a pillar of social and economic development. Their commitment is visible at every level of our society, within government, within urban and rural societies. Women are often the first to respond to a crisis, whether it is of a security, health, or economic nature. They have made key and essential contributions. Yet, women continue to face structural inequalities and systemic violence. in addition to persistent obstacles to the full enjoyment of their rights and development. Political participation of women has still not achieved the desired level, and gender-based violence, whether it is at home or institutional or exacerbated by conflicts, weakens the very foundation of our democracies. In this context, it is imperative that our organization redouble its efforts to ensure that the commitments made in terms of women's rights turn into concrete actions and results. Chair, in Haiti, the rights of women have been a national priority for some time. We have ratified the main inter-American conventions in this area and have implemented ambitious policies. Since 1994, we have a Ministry for Women's Affairs and Rights, which is led by a very dynamic young woman who has spent her life defending women's rights. In 2011, we amended our constitution to introduce the obligation of having a quota of 30% women's participation in public affairs with the aim of achieving parity. The government has also implemented a multi-annual policy on gender equality. It has a plan to fight violence against women. There is an office to fight violence against women and a hotline that has been put in place as well to help women who are victims of this violence. I'm also happy to announce that tomorrow, for the first time, a woman will become the permanent representative of the OAS from Haiti. This is a testimony to our strong political will to help women and girls so that they have an environment where they can fully exercise their rights and contribute to our country's development. However, this ambition today is being undermined by the security crisis ravaging Haiti, and women and girls have paid a very heavy price for it. Chair, we cannot talk about women's rights without also discussing the brutal reality that they face in my country. Gangs have gained power and have targeted women and girls through violence, organized crime, and terror. In certain areas of our capital, there are thousands of women and girls living in the face of being kidnapped, sexually exploited, or forcibly displaced. Sexual violence are used as a weapon of domination and humiliation, destroying entire lives and families. When we talk about women and mothers, many women are not able to flee because they would leave behind everything that they have. But some were able to flee, others were not. And these crimes are a deep blemish on our collective conscience. The Haitian government is determined to continue protecting women and ensuring their security. But no policy on women's rights can be effective without a return to security and the rule of law. The deployment of the multi-dimensional mission is an important step forward, but it is underfinanced and limited when it comes to its equipment and manpower. We need more robust, structured, and effective action to take down these criminal networks, restore order, and enable women and girls to live without this constant fear of violence. We therefore ask our partners to step up their cooperation and efforts to stabilize the country and to make women and girls a priority. A society that abandons its women is a society that condemns itself. It is our responsibility as a nation to be guided by our shared values, to act in solidarity and determination to put an end to these tragic circumstances, and to make sure that equality, development, and peace can take place, and they cannot exist without equality for women. Thank you.
Respetuosamente,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to remind you that we should only speak for 5 minutes because we have other items on the agenda and other remarks to be made. Permanent Representative of Colombia is recognized. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and welcome to the seat chairing us at this very important session. On behalf of Colombia, we should like to thank the presentations of the Minister of Panama, Mrs. Priola, Mrs. Vice Minister from the Ministry of Equality of Colombia, Ms. Pose, and to recognize the representative of Jamaica that gave us a very inspiring speech, and Mrs. Mora Mora, Executive Secretary of the SIM, and Mrs. Maria Jose Corbalan, Coordinator of the Coalition for Women's Human Rights and the OAS member of the Association for Women's Human Rights. I wanted to underscore the role of women in multilateralism and the progress made in their rights. These achievements, alongside the obstacles and some backstepping, reminds us that the path toward gender equality is not linear. It requires permanent, ongoing collective efforts. There's still a lot of ground to cover. Today, we commemorate the Day of Women of the Americas. This is an opportunity to honor the struggles and the resilience of women in their diversity and to reaffirm our commitment to gender equality, which was referred to this morning, to remind us that this is present in all social arenas, and government, judicial, and other spheres, and the recognition of their rights. The government of President Gustavo Petro has assumed gender equality as a fundamental spoke for international national concern. And in addition to recognizing the central role played by women for changes in our national development plan, both the feminist foreign policies as a first plan of action, Resolution 1325 reflects a firm, steadfast commitment to promote women's rights in their diversity, their significant participation in the political, social, and economic life, and in the elimination of violence, or gender-based violence, I should say, which has been one of the constant fights of the current government. We have the deep-seated conviction that democracy, sustainable development, a reduction of violence, and peace will only make genuine, real sense if women can fully exercise their rights. The old expression that our Vice Minister Tamara Ospina said with regards to violence and peace has to be borne in mind, and it's very significant. With that, Colombia is very proud, as well, I should say, in having the 40th, hosting the 40th SIM delegation in Cartagena, and has presented its nomination for the chair of the committee that guides that commission. This shows our commitment to continue to make strides in gender equality agenda in the region. Unfortunately, in the regional context, and even above that worldwide, the rights of women confront serious threats. We are alarmed at the current restrictions when it comes to access to reproductive and sexual rights, when exercising the autonomy for freedom of expression and the right to live free from violence and discrimination. Given that reality, Colombia makes a clarion call to pull together, coordinate, and to ensure these rights. The OAS plays a key role in this work, and through the Inter-American Commission of Women and other mechanisms, we should double up our efforts to honor the progress made and insist on the imperative need, because gender equality, and so that gender equality is a reality for everybody. We would like to invite this Permanent Council to make the fight for equality a priority on our agenda and to strengthen the strategic alliances between government, civil society, and international organizations. Today, we reaffirm our commitment towards a future in which women in their diversity exercise their rights without barriers nor fear, and in freedom, dignity, and equality. So, Madam Chairman, congratulations to all women in the Americas. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Representative of Canada has the floor. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I would like to thank the panelists for their comments today as we commemorate the Day of Women in the Americas. This is a crucial role that women play as we advance towards equality and the enjoyment of rights for all women. This is also a time to engage in dialogue, underscoring the importance in a public space and to underscore the challenges that are still confronted by women in English.
Women as powerful agents of change in the Americas and believes in their full, equal, and meaningful participation in governance and in public life. We recognize the Inter-American Commission of Women as a model example of women in multilateralism and as a strong organism to promote gender equality and reinforce it as a core principle in both national and regional agendas. Canada firmly believes that gender equality is non-negotiable, a fundamental human right. We encourage all our partners in the hemisphere to take deliberate actions to advance gender equality by adjusting the systemic barriers and harmful social norms that prevent women and girls from realizing their full potential and from participating in the development and prosperity of their families, communities, and countries. Canada is also following with great concern the systematic, coordinated efforts globally to roll back the rights of women and girls in all their diversity. We are committed to working collaboratively with partners, civil society, and international organizations to counter these efforts. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Canada. I'd like to now give the floor to the delegate from Ecuador. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'm going to go straight forward to my comments. And the voices of women in Ecuador, called Malabares, we have the message of pain that women have had. We are the standard bearers. We have to go far, but if we unite, nothing can overcome us. Nothing will keep us behind. Now, this measure underscores the force of the multilateral system. Truly, it underscores the relevance and the importance of commemorating this very important day, such as is the Day of Women of the Americas. The delegation of Ecuador recognizes not only the contribution of women in the multilateral sphere, but also the need to think about the achievements made and the challenges that women still confront in all arenas, particularly in the current state of affairs in the region. In this context, we underscore the continued influence of women in the multilateral sphere and their crucial role for international cooperation, diplomacy, and world peace. Over the course of time, women have played a critical role in strengthening global cooperation and promoting human rights and social justice, gender equality, and have spearheaded peace agreements, have defended sustainable development, climate change, and the fight against poverty. Our region has true leaders that have fought for freedom, dignity, equality, and have promoted development, integration, social justice, and human rights, in addition to many other things. Multilateralism has provided an opportunity for mediators, negotiators, experts in education, health, and human rights to build bridges, which are crucial parts of the puzzle in the agreements that our societies need. And despite the significant strides made in gender equality, we have seen valuable contributions made and the capacity of women in key areas such as diplomacy, foreign policy, international law, women's participation in these sectors, which are only a few to mention. We see that only 13% of ambassadors' roles are occupied by women, much under men's participation in Latin America. There are those stereotypes and structural barriers that make it difficult to have access to a larger number of women in the diplomatic career and to high-level decision-making posts. As far as integration of women, this has been a continuous process towards gender equity or equality. It's essential to have women in strategic positions through concrete activities that underscore their professionalization and promotion in their career. Of the challenges, we have to guarantee greater women's representation in strategic posts and heads of mission. We have to overcome the glass ceiling that evaluation systems have and have environments that are free of violence for women. It's crucial to make women visible in multilateral arenas, promoting female nominations in international organizations. We also say that this applies to the Secretary General of the OAS. So as we commemorate the Day of Women of the Americas, we enforce our commitment to women, and we reiterate our will to continue to have specific actions and policies that guarantee the voice and presence of women in multilateral platforms, ensuring defense and protection of their rights. We will continue to work together hand in hand to build inclusive societies that are fair and that will underscore the potential of women in the multilateral arena. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I now offer the floor to the permanent representative of Guatemala. Ambassador. Microphone, please, for the ambassador. Good afternoon. Hello to the Vice President, Wendy Acevedo, the Secretary of SIM, Alejandra Mora, representatives of the General Secretariat, and delegates. I would like to thank the delegation of the Dominican Republic as coordinator of the group of women's and girls' rights and other missions who asked for this important item to be included on today's agenda. Today we are meeting to reflect upon and celebrate the commemoration of the Day of Women of the Americas. It is important that we recognize milestones as well as the challenges that remain in the area of women's rights and gender equality throughout our region. I am pleased to share that in Guatemala, under the leadership of President Arevalo, we have taken significant measures to promote parity and political participation of women. We are proud to have a cabinet with 5 women, including an indigenous woman, as well as other authorities who are women within the presidency and other areas of government. This shows our commitment to inclusion and our determination to create a future where every woman's voice is heard and valued. We are also proud that our vice president is a woman. This also shows the political willingness of our government to promote equality and the political participation of women in various areas. In this regard, within the Ministry of National Defense, we have a policy on women in the military to promote women's rights in the military while respecting their dignity. Through our Special Cabinet on Development, we have worked to address gaps and inequalities. We have worked to identify where women and girls are the most vulnerable, particularly in indigenous communities. The goal here is to focus our efforts and carry out actions that truly transform lives. Chair, President Arevalo's administration is committed to financial inclusion of women and has been working to provide resources for women's entrepreneurship in areas where they've historically been excluded. By promoting MSMEs that are led by women, we are working towards more equitable, sustainable development. Looking ahead to the conference on women that will be held in March 2025, we will also be celebrating the anniversary of the Platform and Plan of Action of Beijing of 1995. This will allow us to further focus on women's rights in all aspects of life, including their political and economic participation, fighting gender-based violence, social protection, eradication of poverty, use of technology, peace, security, and climate action. The Secretariat of Women's Affairs is currently reviewing our policies on women's development and is putting together a technical team to make sure that we fulfill our international obligations in this area, and so that we can progress towards a more fair society where women play a leading role. Recently, the president of the Bar Association was elected, and for the first time, a woman is leading this association. Women's participation is important in Guatemala, especially indigenous women. There are indigenous women, such as Maria Buchol, who works to protect indigenous women and their rights. Her leadership is key to address inequality and social injustice. The team that she heads is working to address the rights of these indigenous women. To strengthen the participation of indigenous women, President Arévalo's administration has appointed women to decision-making positions and multilateral institutions. Alina is the Presidential Commissioner of Municipalities and the government's representative to the Fund to Develop Indigenous Communities in Latin America and the Caribbean. In order to recognize the contributions of women, every year there is an office on women's affairs that pays tribute to their dedication and to the difference that they've made in their communities. These women are a source of transformation of our societies. It is important that our organization also makes sure that future generations of women enjoy a world where their rights, potential, and dignity are fully recognized and valued. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. I now offer the floor to the Permanent Representative of Chile. Thank you very much, Chair. Chile reaffirms its commitment to gender equality and women's rights, as well as the rights of girls throughout the Americas. We understand this commemoration as an opportunity to reflect upon the progress achieved and an opportunity to renew our efforts and energy to create a more fair and equitable world that is free from gender-based violence. In this spirit, Chair, we would like to recognize the President of SIM, Minister Niurka del Palacio. We also recognize Tamara Ospina, Vice Minister of Colombia, Alejandra Mora Mora, and Maria Jose Corbalan. And we thank them for their achievements, as recognized by other organizations. We have a feminist foreign policy since 2022 in Chile, which seeks to incorporate or mainstream a gender-based approach throughout our government. This approach allows us to promote women in international policy and to strengthen their human rights, and to strengthen them in other areas, including diplomacy. Chile has also worked in fora such as these to ensure the full inclusion of women in decisions that are made. At the OAS, Chile has promoted all pillars affecting women. And we've worked with various departments on these four important pillars. As chair of the Committee of Experts of MESECFI for the 2023-2025 period, Chile has promoted an intersectional approach to combat gender-based violence and support the Convention of Belém do Pará. We've seen that within SEAM, one of our ministers has played an important role to promote women's economic empowerment and policies to address the wage gap and access to formal employment for women. We have also promoted women and emerging technologies so that technological development does not reproduce old inequalities or create new forms of violence against women. We have also underscored and created programs to help vulnerable groups because women and girls experience a whole host of different realities. Chair, Chile has worked in each and every one of these areas, and women's rights are a pillar of our foreign affairs policies. We are fully aware of the many challenges that women face. We need to make sure that we continue the gains that we have made and continue working towards consensus. And this is even more important when we're talking about multilateral fora. We understand that the ability to reach agreements will help us preserve the achievements of so many women throughout history. So on this day, Chile reiterates its commitment to gender equality and to strengthening women's rights in all areas. And we reiterate our commitment to build consensus, to think about the next steps that we need to take to make sure that there are no setbacks, that there are no steps backward. As other delegations have mentioned, we believe that this is absolutely necessary for our democratic societies. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Ambassador. I offer the floor now to the delegation of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. My delegation is pleased to be associated with the statement presented by the Permanent Representative of Barbados on behalf of CARICOM. Additionally, I wish to thank you, Chair, for convening this very important session, SIM for its unwavering commitment to women, and the distinguished presenters for their valuable contributions. Now, please permit me, Chair, to convey a very brief statement on behalf of the Office of the Prime Minister, Gender and Child Affairs of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the commemoration of the Day of Women of the Americas. Open quotation. On the Day of Women of the Americas, we remain steadfast in advancing gender equality, addressing gender-based violence, and fostering sustainable peace. Close quotation. To everyone here today, happy Day of Women of the Americas. I thank you, Chair.
Muchas gracias a usted. Tiene ahora la...
Thank you very much. I now offer the floor to the delegation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you, Chair, distinguished delegates, and esteemed colleagues. My delegation takes pride in addressing this important topic, commemoration of the Day of the Women of the Americas. Today, we come together not only to celebrate the achievements of women across the Americas, but to reaffirm our unwavering commitment to advancing women's rights in our nation and beyond. As such, we are completely aligned with the CARICOM perspective as articulated by the delegation of Barbados. St. Kitts and Nevis has long been a vanguard for promoting gender equality and empowering women. As of September 2022, women held 31.3% of the seats in our National Assembly. This is not just a statistic, it is a testament to our commitment to ensuring that women's voices are heard, their rights are respected, and their contributions are recognized in shaping the future of our country. We believe that women's representation in leadership positions is fundamental to achieving lasting and meaningful change. Furthermore, St. Kitts and Nevis takes great pride in our record in the protection of women from violence. Our country amended the Domestic Violence Act to ensure that both men and women who are victims of domestic violence have easier access to protection orders. This amendment reflects our firm belief in creating a society where every individual, regardless of gender, can live free from violence and fear. In 2022, we took further strides in addressing gender-based violence by successfully passing the Domestic Violence Amendment Act. The bill introduced crucial changes that provide victims of domestic violence with urgent and swift access to justice. It expands the jurisdiction of the courts to include both the magistrates and the High Court, ensuring that individuals can have easier access to justice through magistrates' court, while also having the option of High Court hearings for more serious cases. These amendments are critical not only for providing victims with the protection they deserve, but also in making our legislation system more accessible and responsive to the needs of those affected by gender-based violence. However, we do not shy away from acknowledging that there is still more work to be done. The amendments to the Act are a step in the right direction, but we remain committed to further strengthening legislation, improving access to resources for victims, and tackling the root cause of violence. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we believe that addressing gender-based violence is also not just about the law. It is about changing attitudes, challenging harmful stereotypes, and empowering women and men alike to take a stand against violence in all its forms. We understand that laws alone cannot solve these issues, and we need a collective effort from all sectors of society, government, civil society, and communities. Our work in advancing women's rights is ongoing, and we stand resolute in our belief that empowering women is central to the development of a just, equitable, and prosperous society. St. Kitts and Nevis will continue to be a strong advocate for the rights of women, and we call upon all nations of the Americas to continue this fight as well. Together, we can create a world where gender equality is not just a goal, but a reality. May it please you, Chair.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I now offer the floor to the permanent observers, starting with the ambassador and permanent observer of Spain. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Spain would also like to be present in this commemoration of the Day of Women of the Americas and raise its voice to represent women's and girls' rights. We would like to express our gratitude that this item was concluded on today's order of business for the Permanent Council, because it is important that we, in multilateral spaces like the OAS, recognize this so that we do not fall behind when it comes to equality between men and women. We would also like to recognize the work of the ambassadors at the OAS who have worked to create opportunities throughout the world thanks to their multilateral efforts. We would like to recognize the work of our colleagues and those who came before us, because it is thanks to their efforts that we have been able to be here. We also have the ethical obligation to expand our work. We would like to recognize the work being done on the group that is led by the Dominican Republic at the OAS that works on gender, and we recognize here the tireless work of the Inter-American Commission of Women and its 97 years of existence. This entity is a benchmark and a source of pride for all four in the region. The government of Spain is deeply committed to feminism, even beyond our borders. Our country has a feminist foreign policy, which at the OAS has translated into a decisive commitment to democracy, parity, and women's leadership through institutional, political, and financial support for the Inter-American Commission of Women. There are courses that are offered to provide information about the model law on parity. This commemoration of the Day of Women of the Americas is a day to claim the rights of women and girls and our rights writ large. There can be no social change or democracy without the full and effective respect for the rights of women and girls. The multiple challenges that we face globally, such as the climate crisis, poverty, migration, security, and peace, can only be addressed when we include feminism in crafting solutions to these issues, because gender equality is the cornerstone of transformation, progress, and democracy. Women and girls globally are the ones who are paying the most for the various crises after the pandemic. After we saw the video that was screened, which we were kindly asked to participate in, we recognize that equality is a right, not a privilege, and we have to defend it. We are experiencing an international situation where there is a persistent lack of recognition of the rights of women and girls, especially when it comes to sexual and reproductive health. And we've even seen very dangerous setbacks. Here, we'd like to underscore that in multilateral fora, human rights are universal and indivisible, and as such, they include the rights of women. Lastly, I am pleased to announce and extend an invitation to you. There is an exhibition on suffragettes in the Museum of the Americas, the Art Museum of the Americas, and there is an exhibit that is being put on with support from various organizations, and it commemorates the access to voting of women in various countries. It pays tribute to women and movements that they led that made this right possible. This exhibition is called Ancestors. This is the second edition of this exhibit, and it helps strengthen our collective memory and to pay tribute to women in the Americas, and specifically women's right to the vote. Again, we extend an invitation to you to the inauguration, to the opening of the exhibit to help us celebrate the lives of women in the Americas. And thanks to them, we have participation of women in our democracies. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I offer the floor to the permanent observer and ambassador of France. Thank you very much. France would also like to take part in this commemoration of the Day of Women of the Americas, a day that allows us to recall our commitment to gender equality and the fight against all forms of discrimination against women. This House of the Americas is an opportunity for us to reaffirm our commitment as France to defend the rights of women and girls around the world. Here I'd like to recognize the pioneering role of women from Latin America and the Caribbean who work to promote gender equality and to enforce or strengthen protection of their rights. These heroines have promoted the cause of women in the Americas and beyond. I would also like to underscore the importance in the legal realm of the Convention of Belém do Pará, adopted in 1994, the first legally binding instrument in the world that puts in place mechanisms to defend the rights of women. France was one of the first countries to adopt feminist diplomacy that puts gender equality and women's rights at the heart of its foreign policy. France will have the honor to host the upcoming conference on women in June 2025. 2025 is an important year. It is the 30th anniversary of several major events to promote women and girls' rights, the Declaration and Plan of Action of Beijing. We must continue to strengthen this framework and carry it forward. Feminist foreign policy is a political commitment, fighting violence against women and girls throughout the world, defending gender parity, which must become a reality, as set forth in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, promoting the universality of the rights of women and girls wherever they are threatened. France is deeply committed to this objective and to including it in across all issues when it comes to peace and security, sustainable development, promoting fundamental rights, climate issues, economic issues. The Summit on Artificial Intelligence held last week in Paris was also an opportunity to address gender biases and obstacles to women and girls online. It is also within this framework that France, as an OAS member or observer state, has worked with SEAM and supported its activities in the Americas to promote women's participation in politics, to promote their economic autonomy as well. You can always count on France to continue to defend progress towards societies that protect rights and the rights of women and girls in the Americas and around the world. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, embajador.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I offer the floor to the representative of the Holy See. Thank you very much, Chair. The delegation of the Holy See is pleased that this important topic has been included on today's agenda for the Permanent Council on the occasion of the commemoration of the Day of Women of the Americas, held every year on 18 February since it was approved by the General Assembly in 1982. Within this forum, this delegation would like to express its recognition and admiration of all women of the Americas whose contributions are key for progress in our societies. It is also significant to remember this date in the context of multilateralism, as it coincides with the anniversary of the Declaration and Platform of Action of Beijing, adopted at the 4th Global Conference on Women in 1995. At the regional level, we also celebrate the 40th Assembly of Delegates of SIM, which will take place this year in Colombia. Within this context, the importance of international cooperation to improve the conditions of all women cannot be underestimated. This invites us to work together for justice and well-being. And in these efforts, women must always play a key role. The role of women in our societies is invaluable, especially during times of conflict, when women can be mediators and protectors of our future. In multilateral fora, we have the responsibility to actively work for their rights and ensure equal opportunities, and also recognize the real impact that they have on our societies and how they transform them. Society has a historic debt to women whose contributions are often invisible, yet they are crucial to the development of our communities. It is key that multilateral organizations continue to promote policies that eradicate violence, discrimination, and economic barriers that limit women's potential. It is only in this way that we can ensure a future of equality, dignity, and respect for all. Cooperation among nations must translate into concrete actions. And we need policies, but we also need to ensure that those policies are implemented, to ensure that the rights of women are respected and promoted at every level. Pope Francis has said that societies around the world are still far from achieving this goal of having women with the same dignity and rights as men. There are words that are said, but the reality is different. This is an important time to reflect upon the role of women in our societies, as well as the challenges that they face. 3 decades ago, at the Beijing conference, public policies were crafted to channel global efforts into promoting equity and equality between men and women, to develop women's abilities so that they can enjoy full development. The Holy See reaffirms its commitment to women's dignity, especially women in the most vulnerable situations. We recall their fundamental role in caring for and transmitting life, in creating stable families, and creating a more fair and harmonious society. However, women continue to face social, economic, and cultural barriers that limit their full development. The Holy See reiterates its commitment to justice that promotes a dignified life for one and all without exclusion. without violence, without discrimination. We therefore urge each and every one of us to take greater efforts to prevent violence against women and to ensure their universal access to education and health, and to recognize their unpaid work, to create spaces where women can be leaders of their own destinies in harmony with their communities. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Muchísimas gracias. Agradecemos la activa participación.
Thank you very much. We truly appreciate the participation of all delegations. We appreciate your comments that have been taken due note of and recorded and will be in the minutes of this meeting. I would also like to thank the distinguished panelists for their comments. Their comments have been very valuable to enrich this commemoration. I extend my thanks to the chair of the council for the opportunity to preside over the very significant dialogue we've had. This council has taken note of the comments made, which contribute to strengthen our regional commitment to promote women's rights and gender equality. And as such, we have concluded our commemoration of the Day of Women of the Americas. And once again, I would like to thank all delegations and panelists for their cooperation and participation. Thank you very much for this process. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much to the Vice Chair for having so sterlingly conducted this part of the session. I don't know the record, but I think we had a record in terms of participation of delegations. My dear colleagues, in compliance with the mandate established in Resolution 3029 of the General Assembly, today we also commemorate the 25th anniversary of the creation of the Center for the Study of Justice of the Americas, CEJA, an intergovernmental organization that has been crucial in strengthening justice systems in our region. The CEJA, created in 1999 by resolution of the General Assembly, has played a critical role by supporting the reform processes and modernization of the justice system in the America. The work has been focused on generating technical studies, providing assistance to governments and institutions of justice, and promote regional cooperation in the field of justice. To commemorate this date, I am pleased to offer the floor to our distinguished panelists, who will share their perspective on CEJA's work and its contributions to the inter-American system. First of all, I am pleased to offer the floor to Mrs. Natalie Ponce, Executive Director of the Center for Justice Studies of the Americas. Mrs. Ponce will be with us virtually. You have the floor.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman of the Permanent Council, Ambassador Duarte, Vice Chair, Ambassador Wendy Acevedo, ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, representatives of states to the OAS, authorities of the entities of the OAS, and those of states participating, member, executive director of the Center of Justice Studies. We are very happy to have this opportunity to share our perspective on the commemoration of the 25 years of creation. We have a brief presentation, and I would like to kindly ask you to put it up. As was said by the President, we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the creation of the Justice Studies Center in the Americas, in the OAS, as it has transformed justice in the Americas. As has been mentioned, our organization was created 25 years ago with a view to strengthening police systems in a very important context, such as the reform of democratic systems during this millennium. I'm really also very happy to inform you that during the last 25 years that we are commemorating within the framework of the first executive director headed up by a woman. Just when we are commemorating the Day of Women in the Americas, and right now, further, we have a technical group of SECA made up only of women, and our executive board is made up of 3 women representatives from Paraguay, Panama, and Uruguay. Having said that, it's very important to speak to the important experience that our institution has had transforming itself and becoming a point of reference in the region as well as globally when it comes to capacity building in justice systems in the America. As was mentioned, this institution has promoted a host of different justice reforms to be able to make strides when it comes to judicial services. Next slide, please. I wanted to offer the following thoughts. In this slide, I can underscore some of the main milestones, some of the main institutional themes on which SECA has worked hand in hand with the ministers of justice and with the teams in the different ministries and justice organizations. Nonetheless, that said, I wanted to also refer to the context in which SECA works, the paradigms and some of the challenges that we're grappling with, as well as some of the achievements that have been made over the last 25 years of work. I would like to underscore that when this was born in '99, looking at a reform of democracy in the countries of the region, the judicial systems had a host of different challenges. Some have been overcome, some have not yet been yet, and logically of procedures looking at deep or moving away red tape, the lack of accountability and transparency are just some of the challenges which together with regards to fundamental rights motivated the creation of SECA. It's in this context that I should like to underscore a host of achievements in terms of themes, etc. I'm not going to go through the long list of our achievements because you've been following our institutional work. Nonetheless, I would like to speak to the paradigms, the change in paradigms when it comes to a greater quest for innovative approaches, an approach towards managing judicial systems. This has been the crux around which SECA has worked and worked towards change. Today, in the Americas, we have a host of different challenges. Nonetheless, it's very important to recognize, from our standpoint, that, next slide, please, that many of the achievements that we have in the justice system are because of collaborative work that SECA has done to change these traditional paradigms and to implement a new approach with a view towards public policy towards accountability and the strategy using technology. And we have worked towards transparency and looking as well at some of the ethics in the Americas. So these things have been developed through various reforms in judicial systems over the course of 25 years in criminal justice in many countries within civil areas. This has touched on justice systems and international cooperation. Next slide, please. This work has not only been done in Latin America, but also we have had cooperation in the Caribbean, and currently this year we're going to develop some activities in some of the Caribbean islands to strengthen this work on gender issues. Next, please. Today, we have a global context which is extremely challenging and complex, and that's why at the beginning of the management as of 2022, we had more of a participatory process involving civil society organizations and others, and we developed this strategic plan for 2022 to 2026, which underscores our priority areas and our objectives for cooperation and our work with other organs of the OAS, as well as working with other states. We're well aware of SECA's contributions. Today, all judicial systems have a host of different challenges in a context where the issues are priorities. Today, we say that security, and here cross-border security, as well as trade issues, are part and parcel of the general agenda that we have worldwide. So it's crucial for these pillars, these frameworks that we have in our agenda, be developed systematically. These govern our organization from its very inception. We have to be able to have democratic relations, and here the judicial system is imperative for these systems in our countries without any partiality in our systems looking at crime and so on. It has to be impartial as well as effective, as well as in cost-benefit investments that are made when it comes to our work. It's also imperative to use technology. Mrs. Ponce, I'd like to ask you to wrap it up, says the chair. Within this framework of CEJA, once again, we renew our commitment in the institutional mandate entrusted to us by states to strengthen justice systems. And that is why we have a resolution from the last General Assembly of the OAS approved by you, states, in which we commemorate our years, and it has entrusted our organization to craft a blueprint with three purposes in mind. The second objective is to have collaborative work between CEJA and other sister agencies in the OAS, and we do this with a view to work on a common ground in the OAS and to inject some sustainability in the OAS and possibly in our case for the benefit of the institutions involved in the justice systems. We have a blueprint that has come from our working groups. Mrs. Ponce, I'm sorry I have to cut you off. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Ponce. Next, I should like to offer the floor to Mr. Bruno Novoa, President of the Board of Directors of CEJA. And you have 7 minutes, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, distinguished ambassadors, representatives from all member states of our region, and present authorities. I would like to first and foremost offer you a warm welcome on behalf of the Board of Directors of CEJA, the Justice Studies Center, and I'm honored to chair that as a representative council from Peru. This is made up of Nadia Franco, our vice president, Mrs. Rivas, council from Paraguay, Mr. Benjamin Guerre from Canada, Cecilia Barrios, councilor from Guatemala, another member from Argentina, and more recently, we have another council from Ecuador. On behalf of the board of CEJA, I would like to thank the representatives of member states for the reference and for the resolution that officially commemorates us during the first quarter of 2025. This commemorates our 25th anniversary, and the resolution itself approved the CEJA statutes with, in addition to other things, the task to compile and disseminate information on national experiences, modernization, and a reform of the justice systems throughout the entire region, to facilitate capacity building of human resources of justice systems and perfectioning of the current mechanisms for all countries in the hemisphere. Today, thanks to this honorable assembly, we recognize the value of the Justice Studies Center of the Americas, CEJA, which works to strengthen democracy, the rule of law, and to refine justice systems in the continent. As was pointed out by our executive director, a blueprint is being crafted through which we respectfully request all member states, via our chair or president, to provide support as we craft this so-called blueprints. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, through you, I should like to reaffirm the commitment towards modernizing the justice systems in the Americas in all due respect of democracy, the defense of human rights, and the ongoing strengthening of the constitutional state of law in our region. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Bruno Novoa. Thank you very much for your comments and for being very mindful of the time. My dear colleagues, on this point, I should like to open the floor to delegations who might like to make comments and ask you, of course, to be brief in the interest of time. The Ambassador of Chile has the floor. Thank you very much. Chile truly appreciates the presentations of Mr. Ponce and Mr. Noboa from the Board of Directors, and we'd like to commend all the Justice Studies Center for the 25th anniversary, and we'd like to commend them for all of the work and for everything. But there's one thing in particular that I should like to speak to. The topic of justice in the Americas, which is a very sensitive topic, given the criminal systems. Chile had this point, as other countries do. We have different capacity building and different assistance to states. We have an observance of civil issues for the region and other issues. But what I would like to briefly say is that we are commemorating these 25 years of CEJA and recognize our very positive contribution. I think this makes sense because given the 25 years that we have gone through with all the challenges that our states have, without any exception, when it comes to security for people, to take full advantage of the resources that we have and to be more efficient so that we can improve our institutions. We feel that it's opportune to not overlook that. I just wanted to remind everybody to cherish CEJA, make it more active, because we feel that that could be vital in the topic of justice today, and we hope that this will be the beginning of the next 25 years as it has marked the first 25. Thank you very much. Chile, Paraguay has the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, we wanted to thank the Executive Director of CEJA, Mrs. Ponce and Mr. Navarro, for their presentations. My delegation alongside Chile is the one that has promoted commemorating this 25th anniversary as a very important recognition of the work in the Americas when it comes to justice. And commemorating these 25 years, SEJA has made a lot of achievements towards reforming the legal modernization in our region by carrying out studies, research, technical assistance, as well as capacity building and providing relevant information on our justice systems. Given this commitment towards building justice systems, both civil and criminal areas, that meets the needs of our people and our societies, SEJA has consolidated its place as a reference for an exchange of experiences as well as research to improve justice systems and strengthen independence and autonomy as some of the crucial points of representative democracy. So that this year we reaffirm our support for the work, and we would like you to convey to your authorities our satisfaction with the work that you do, and we urge our countries or you to continue to support our countries to make justice more robust and accessible to everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paraguay. Panama has the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Republic of Panama, we would like to express our congratulations and recognition for the Center of Justice of the Americas for the invaluable contribution to strengthening systems of justice in our hemisphere. Since it was established on the 15th of November 1999, SEJA has offered technical assistance to governments, judicial powers, and public ministries. It's crafting technical studies and spearheading empirical research, which has been the bedrock of public policies when it comes to justice. The SEJA's contributions have significantly helped our region, thus promoting oral narratives, celerity, and equality in all judicial processes. Its approach on efficiency in criminal cases, its look at corruption and violence has strengthened democracy and the rule of law in our countries. We would like to underscore and recognize the valuable contribution of the members of the board of directors that through their dedication and leadership have validated the work and made it very successful. In particular, we're very proud to underscore Panamania, Ms. Bango, who is part of the board at SEJA. Ms. Franco is the first Panamanian woman to be part of this organization, and she was re-elected for a second term during the 54th session of the General Assembly of the OAS by acclamation. Her commitment and her talent is part of our nations for justice in the Americas and in an overall global context where democratic institutions grapple with significant changes. The role of SEJA is even more valuable. Her tireless work to refine and perfect justice systems, despite the limited resources, guarantee the long-lasting rule of law in our region. For all that has been said, the delegation of Panama reiterates its recognition and congratulations to the Justice Studies Center during its 25th anniversary. We truly trust, Mr. Chairman, that SEJA will continue to be a pillar in promoting justice, transparency, and equity in our region. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Panama, Costa Rica has the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. We truly appreciate the presentations from the Executive Director, Ponce, and the representatives from the Justice Studies Center of the Americas, SEJA. Now that we're commemorating the 25th anniversary of SEJA, in the 25 years of work, they have been a fundamental pillar in promoting strengthening of democracy, the rule of law, and modernization of justice systems in our region. Since its inception, they have spearheaded important points in criminal and civil cases throughout our region. Its work has been key when it comes to implementing mechanisms that guarantee more accessible justice, which is transparent and efficient. And particularly, we should like to underscore its commitment to capacity building of justice workers, members of civil society, academia, which goes beyond 50,000 people that have benefited, excuse me. We recognize Ceja for its contribution in research and compared evidence, technical assistance, monitoring of public policies, and setting up spaces for dialogue and exchange of best practices. In a context of democratic challenges, its role is more relevant now than ever. Thus, we'd like to offer a clarion call to member states to continue supporting SECA and its mission, making it possible to have necessary dialogue so that they can continue their work with autonomy and excellence. Only with judicial strong institutions can we guarantee access to justice and the effective protection of human rights for all in the region. We reiterate our commitment with the principles that guide SECA's work, and we congratulate everybody in SECA for this very important milestone. Thank you very much. Delegation of Bolivia has the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The plurinational state of Bolivia recognizes SECA's work as a strategic ally to modernize and strengthen legal systems in our region. Its work has been key to spearhead processes of reform that promote access to justice, transparency, and protection of human rights. This is crucial for the rule of law, democracy, and institutions. In our country, cooperation with SECA has been very valuable to move ahead as we quest concrete solutions for the challenges that our justice system confronts. We underscore opening on the 4th of July, 2024, the capacity building program and oral research for various employees in the Ministry of Justice in our country. This capacity building by SECA strengthened our professionals when it came to implementing oral narrative cases. In the regional arena, Bolivia shares the vision of SECA as to the importance of cooperation when it comes to justice. Capacity building, exchange of good practices, and comparative research are essential to take on common challenges such as the fight against corruption, protection of rights of all people, and the guarantee of due process. Mr. Chairman, today we commemorate the new anniversary of SECA, and we reaffirm our commitment to work with projects that strengthens justice in our country and the region. We firmly believe in joint work based on transparency and respect for human rights. This is the path forward so that we can build more fair and democratic societies. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bolivia. Peru has the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm honored to participate in this session of the Permanent Council in commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the creation of the Justice Studies Center of the Americas. 25 years of work, uninterrupted as it has strengthened justice systems in our region, is something that recognizes a renewed commitment and recognition by all member states of the OAS. Since its creation in 1999, SECA has played a crucial role in modernizing judicial systems in the Americas. The research, technical assistance, and capacity building have been crucial to promote judicial reforms geared towards guaranteeing greater access to justice, transparency, and efficiency in justice issues. I would like to underscore and express our recognition to the work. Our compatriot Natalie Ponce, whose leadership has been crucial in strengthening the relevance of SECA and its quality. And as such, we convey our recognition to the current chair, Mr. Noboa, for his commitment and wanting to improve justice systems in the region. Over the course of these years, SECA has significantly contributed to developing innovative approaches to improve conflict resolution, protection of fundamental rights, and strengthening the rule of law in our countries. At a time when trust in democratic institutions is grappling with challenges, the role of SECA has taken on a renewed importance to ensure that justice is a real pillar of our democracies. We would like to offer a clarion call to member states to continue to support SECA's work, both through financial commitments as well as through taking advantage of capacity building studies and recommendations. Its work allows us to move ahead towards more accessible justice systems which are more independent and effective. These are crucial points for the effectiveness and development of our societies. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Peru. I should like to give the floor to the Dominican Republic.
Thank you very much, Chair. Our delegation would like to thank the Permanent Council for including this topic on today's agenda. We would also like to recognize the presentations given by Ms. Natalie Ponce, Executive Director, and Bruno Novoa, President of the Board of Directors, of which we take due note. We are very enthusiastic about this commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the Justice Studies Center of the Americas. This milestone represents 25 years of achievement in strengthening justice systems in our region. It has helped improve access to justice as a fundamental right. The center has played a key role in generating knowledge, developing judicial reforms, and promoting best practices throughout the region. Its work has helped improve the efficiency and transparency of our judicial systems by addressing the needs of our societies, which are constantly evolving. The judicial branch of my country has actively worked in collaboration with the Center on initiatives to improve judicial efficiency, to ensure that justice is accessible for all. We have worked on training programs, exchanges of best practices, and development of innovative strategies, which are all key elements for strengthening access to justice in our country. Over these past 25 years, the Center has been a benchmark for training justice operators, for developing public policies and innovative technologies for the administration of justice. Its impact is undeniable, and its work continues to be indispensable so that we can address challenges of the present and the future. Today, we celebrate not only the progress achieved, but also the renewed commitments to continue working together to build more accessible justice systems that are also more effective and transparent. At this time, or rather, it is time to recognize the efforts of all who have contributed to the development of the center and to reaffirm our commitment in the pursuit of more equitable justice for all. We thank the center for its invaluable work and its ongoing contribution to justice in the Americas. May this commemoration be a time for reflection and momentum to continue to build a modern system for our citizens. Thank you very much. Thank you. I offer the floor now to the permanent representative of El Salvador. Thank you, Chair. We would like to join in this commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the creation of the Justice Studies Center of the Americas. We commend its authorities and recognize its valuable work to create and strengthen justice systems in the region and provide access to justice for all individuals. We recognize the important role that the center plays in disseminating information and developing training programs, which has helped trained over 6,000 professionals in the Americas. We would also like to recognize the training programs and programs for advisory services which have been carried out throughout the region and in my country, which have helped develop the skills of justice professionals in the system. It is important to recognize the progress made, but we must also look ahead to the next 25 years. Technological developments mean that we need to think about the challenges and opportunities that are offered for our justice systems, such as AI, among others, and how the center can promote use of these technologies and improve our member states' understanding of these technologies. Exchange of experiences and best practices through regional cooperation is key so that we can address emerging issues and use these tools effectively to support reform processes and modernize our justice systems in the Americas. It is also key that the center continue working on this. In the next few years, we will promote actions to further multilateralism and partnerships with the private sector, as well as OAS member states and observers, so that we can promote justice. We reiterate our support for the center and our commitment to work together to strengthen justice in our hemisphere. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, El Salvador. I recognize Canada.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, on behalf of Canada, I would like to sincerely congratulate the Justice Studies Center of the Americas on the occasion of its 25th anniversary. Canada recognizes the important work that the center has played in supporting reform processes and modernization of the justice system in the Americas.
Canada has long supported CEJA in the implementation of various projects on issues such as social justice, better access to justice, criminal, civil, and family justice, and alternative conflict resolution methods across Latin America and the Caribbean. We wish CEJA continued success in all future projects. Thank you, Chair.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Canada. We thank all distinguished panelists and delegations for their participation in this commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the creation of the Justice Studies Center of the Americas. The insights shared today improve our understanding of the center's work in the region and its fundamental efforts to improve justice in the Americas. The chair suggests that the Permanent Council take note of the remarks and statements made, which will be also reflected in the minutes of this meeting. This fulfills the mandate set out in Resolution 3029 of the General Assembly and reaffirms the commitment of member states to strengthening justice in the Americas. If there are no objections, it is so agreed. Agreed.
Estimados,
Esteemed colleagues, we have completed our order of business to this regular meeting of the Permanent Council. I would now offer the floor to delegations who wish to bring up any other business of an informational nature.
no habiendo más solicitudes,
Seeing no requests, there is a request. I believe this is from
la misión
the Permanent Observer Mission of Ukraine. You have the floor.
Honorable Chair, distinguished representatives of member states of the Organization of American States, dear observers. Thank you for the opportunity to once again express Ukraine's strong commitment to the nature, purposes, and principles of the OAS Charter, as well as to deepening our relations with the region. Unlike Russia, that is implementing its foreign policy based on military coercion and economic expansionism, combined with blatant disinformation, Ukraine is devoted to developing mutually beneficial cooperation with its partners based on equality and respect. Our approach includes increasing the number of embassies across the region, expanding cultural diplomacy, building strategic economic partnerships, organizing trade missions and business forums, sending sector-specific delegations to explore new business opportunities and promote cooperative ventures in industries where Ukraine has an edge, namely agriculture, IT, and energy. We can see a growing number of intergovernmental contacts supplemented by parliamentary diplomacy. Just last year, Ukrainian parliamentarians visited 13 countries of the region, and 58 representatives of parliaments of the region took part in the first ever parliamentary conference, Ukraine, Latin America and the Caribbean, Cooperation for the Future. Ukraine was pleased to join as a founding country the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty, an initiative of the Brazilian presidency of G20, underlying our role as a guarantor of global food security via Grain from Ukraine program. Amidst the ongoing war, Ukrainian food exports provide for 400 million people in 100 countries, and we are committed to doing more. This year, as we did before, we commit to making a voluntary contribution to the budget of the Organization of American States. The government of Ukraine strongly believes in the core principles of the UN Charter: peaceful coexistence of nations, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence. These are not mere words for us. Soon we will mark 3 years since we defend them by paying the highest price when Russia started unprovoked, large-scale aggression against Ukraine. These days, Putin may look as he has finally got a sound mind and committed to the peace. Maybe that is why he sent 176 drones at Ukraine 2 days ago and attacked Odessa city yesterday, leaving 160,000 residents without heat and electricity. In addition to 1,220 guided aerial bombs, 850 drones and 40 missiles last week. We reject such language of intimidation and threat. We do that for the sake of Ukraine, for our neighbors, for Ukraine, for everyone who wants to live in a world governed by law, not by force. Justice has no borders, so does injustice. In the name of justice, and in the memory of those who never returned from the front line and those who were killed while peacefully sleeping at home during missile attacks, Ukraine wants to end the war with a just and durable peace, cemented by strong security guarantees. No one has a veto right on Ukraine to defend its right to exist. Anything else is nothing but a pause that Russia shall utilize to regroup and kill even more. More than 200 rounds of negotiations since Russia first attacked us in 2014 have taught us this lesson. If Russia stops, there will be peace. If Ukraine stops, there will be a genocide. The world must know that the stronger Russia is, the more fragile this world is, and the more tragic consequences we all will face. Russia's aggression is a threat to the security and stability of the entire world, including the nations of Latin America and the Caribbean, to the very principles upon which the OAS was founded. Have no illusion, no one is safe in a world ruled by force. I want to thank everyone who helped us defend these principles, for your support, to Secretary General Luis Almagro and his team for tireless efforts, and to Honorable Chair to be able to address you today. Only through joint efforts and commitment to the goals and principles of the UN and OAS charters, we can restore justice and create a solid foundation for sustainable development and prosperity for people in Ukraine and the rest of the world. Thank you.
Gracias a la...
I thank the Permanent Observer Mission of Ukraine. I now ask delegations if they would like to bring up any other business. Seeing no requests for the floor, I thank you for your patience and your participation in this important session that lasted over 6 hours. The session is hereby adjourned. Have an excellent evening.